Charlotte Motor Speedway is one that is near and dear to many race teams. However, tonight it will be near and dear to the drivers across all of North America in this American Sim Racing Association Sim Marketing Solution Cup Series live on 3YT. Hello everyone, I'm Peter Short, and joining me tonight is Greg Rentz with Carlos Acosta in the production booth. Greg, nice to have you here alongside for what should be a spectacular race. This race put on a fantastic show last week in the Truck Series here in the ASRS Series. But tonight we have the Cup cars on the racetrack, and we've seen some great drafting in practice, and it's going to be a pretty close race.
I'm definitely excited to see how these cars adapt to this new Charlotte Motor Speedway on iRacing. I believe this is the first race for these guys at this track, so it's going to be fun to see how they adapt to the driving of this track with the draft package that we've seen in practice. So, Peter, I'm looking forward to seeing how this one shakes down. 134 laps on the docket tonight. I'm curious to see how it's going to go.
Yeah, absolutely. Of course, it will be a evening to night transition. So as the track temperatures begin to cool down, it's definitely going to change how these race cars handle just a little bit. You can see there 35 Kelsey Rogers running the inside line. It looks like a little bit of scrape right in front of him, but as this race continues to get colder, or the track cools down, I expect these cars to get a little bit tighter. And turn number 4, that always tends to be Calamity Corner here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as the track tightens up. You've already seen a few cars clip the wall there coming out of turn number 4, so I expect to see, as those cars tighten up, that outside wall come into bigger play. But definitely a great racetrack, Charlotte Motor Speedway, with all the NASCAR race teams putting in a lot of effort to race well here. It definitely holds near and dear to many race fans' heart, and I'm definitely looking forward to the show here tonight. Andy Dalton there going by screen, as I think Carlos Acosta in the production truck has the points lined up for us. And my oh my, the big leader of points at the top is Jared Mogard there. He's won a couple of races so far this year, has a whopping 67-point lead. But of course, once we get to the playoffs, that will all go away over Will Worcester sitting in second. Evan Black, we've seen him be very, very quick over the last few weeks, especially on the Truck Series side of things. He's currently sitting third in points. Corey Silva, 73 markers off the top, sitting in fourth. Alan Young, Kelsey Rogers, Jim Foose, Joseph Saville, Tim Knott, and Troy Haight running out your top 10. That's the SMS Cup Series point standings, but we also have the AEA Premier Series points going on. That is a combined points total between the SMS Cup Series and the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series that runs here on Tuesday nights occasionally. And Jared Mogard also leads that point tally by 123 markers over Evan Black. Roy Silva, 178 back. Jim Foose, Will Worcester, Alan Young, Joseph Saville, Kelsey Rogers, Alexander Pelican, and Mitch Brown rounding out the top 10 in the Premier Series. But definitely interesting to see how some of these drivers perform on the Cup Series side versus the Truck Series versus Cup, that sort of thing. So definitely going to be pretty interesting to see if Evan Black can continue his great run from the Truck Series side. Of course, getting the win last week at Charlotte Motor Speedway, as all these drivers going to their pit boxes as we have the drivers meeting. And Greg, what are your key points to look out for here tonight?
For tonight, you're going to have to show patience, especially in turn 4, like you mentioned. When I was driving this thing earlier, about a couple days ago, in a street stock, turn 4 seemed to be the track that was, or the part of the track, I should say, that was biting everybody. Turn 4, like you mentioned, definitely could be the tough spot of this track. I'm curious to see how these guys react to it, especially with the ever-changing track with the evening to night transition that we're going to see tonight. But also, you gotta not let the stage get to your head. This is the home game for NASCAR. When they come to Charlotte, this is the home race, so definitely a lot of pressure on these guys to show off in front of, per se, the home crowd. But one more thing, you gotta try to get the playoffs out of your mind, at least for the time being, because we're getting close to crunch time when it comes to that. But if you start thinking about the playoffs, if you're on the outside looking in, and you get yourself distracted, it could be a long, long night, because one mistake and you could be in some serious trouble here.
Yeah, absolutely. We saw a few incidents last week here in the truck series side of things, but all in all, last week was a relatively clean race. And because last week was a clean race, we only had a few minor penalties here in the Premier Series. Pete Baskins, Tim Knott, Jim Foose, and Steve Buhala all receiving minor penalties. But no drivers are suspended for tonight's race, so definitely good to see that as the clock winds down. And Greg, Charlotte is one of my favorite racetracks because it just races different one end of the speedway to the other. Turns 1 and 2 tend to be really fast. You can get back on the throttle really early, and turns 3 and 4 are a little bit tighter. You have to play with the throttle just a little bit more. It kind of really depends on your car's setup whether or not it's going to get loose out of turn number 4 or tight out of turn 4, but it's really difficult to find a car that works well on both ends of this racetrack just because it is different on both ends of the racetrack, and that makes it fairly unique versus some of the other racetracks we go to.
For sure, and again, you can't say enough about turn 3 and 4 and just how difficult that turn can be. You definitely want to feather the throttle a little bit on entry of the corner, and really the main key for turn 3 and 4 is going to be trying to time when your car, or when you get back into the throttle, it coming off of turn number 4, because if you hit it too early, that could result in some problems, and if your car's not handling right, you also could have problems there. So I'm definitely going to be keeping my eye on turn 4 more than anywhere else tonight, because with this new aero package, the draft package that we've seen in practice, turn 4 could be very, very interesting tonight.
Yeah, and another thing about the fact that this racetrack drives different on both ends of the track is having to set up a pass can be fairly difficult here at Charlotte, because turns 3 and 4, we've already mentioned that turn number 4, all of a sudden the track closes up. But when the track closes up out of turn number 4, it can be very difficult to make a pass on the inside. If you have a car to your outside, that can almost pinch you down, which will thwart your run up off the corner. So it's almost best to set up for a pass coming out of turn number 4, get a run on the driver out of 4, and then make the move through turns number 1 and 2. It'll be interesting to see if this package affects that, because that was definitely how the old Charlotte Motor Speedway used to race. If you're not familiar with the iRacing service, the old Charlotte Motor Speedway that I'm referring to looked exactly the same as this one. However, the track surface was a lot different. It was a lot newer when iRacing first scanned this racetrack back in its inception, back around the year 2009, 2008. They've recently gone and rescanned the racetrack, added in the new bumps that have appeared over the last 10 years, and changed how the grip characteristics are. So it's the exact same track, but it races differently due to a different track surface. As you see, we now have gone over into the qualifying session, riding on board with the 99 of Clarence Bonner, and you got 10 minutes, Greg, to go out there and put in a good lap time to try and get the pole. And I think qualifying is going to be fairly important here, especially with how narrow this racetrack is and how difficult it can be to pass. As you see Clarence Bonner flirting with that outside wall, maybe getting a piece of it through the middle of turn number 3 and 4 as he got to come down, hit the stripe for his first time lap. Greg, take us for a lap around Charlotte.
You're great. This is the part of you can really kind of mash the throttle a little bit right here in turn 1 and 2. And I noticed he's taking the outside line. That was a point I was going to bring up or I'll get to that in a minute, as he roars down the backstretch. Right up here, you're full throttle, and then right here, this is where you got to play with the throttle. Right at the entry to turn 3, you have to time your back on the throttle somewhere in here, as he did a good job making it stick there, as he comes off turn number 4 to set the time. We'll see where it is. Looks like a 29.883 as Bonner sets the mark so far. Now running the inside line, but what I was going to ask you, when you mentioned turn 4 and setting up a pass on the outside, do you think we'll see more guys trying that upper groove to see if they can maybe set up an outside run off turn number 4?
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, you'll see all these drivers here in qualifying run their fastest lap on the inside line as Clarence Bonner hits the stripe for his second time, goes top. What a pickup on that second lap, getting all that momentum from the high line in the first lap. But going back to your point, the high line is one of the best places to pass. It might not be the best place for qualifying and setting the outright pace, but making a pass around the outside here, especially through 3 and 4, tends to be a lot easier than trying to make the pass on the bottom. It's the longer way around the racetrack, and if you have fresher tires, you know, it's a little bit easier, but if you're on equal tires to the cars around you, it's usually pretty difficult to get to the right rear quarter panel of the other cars around you. But if you can do so, you can typically make that pass coming off of turn number 4, as the driver on the inside will have to feather it just a little bit. As we have some times coming in here. Looks like Seville currently sitting atop the board in that number 11 machine. Mitch Brown sitting in second. Troy Haight goes to third, and those times up at the top of the board all really close with one another, as only about 3/100ths of a second separate your top 5. Here comes the number 29, Will Worsler, coming to the stripe. Looks like he's on his out lap so far, or assuming that was his warm-up lap. And, you know, and this will be his flying lap, his second lap. But we see all these drivers, Greg, running the high line on that first lap to get that momentum up with this new package. That seems to be the thing to do, kind of like how all the drivers would typically run a super speedway race, but now we're seeing it on speedways with this new package, as Worsler hits the line there, and he puts in not quite the lap he was looking for.
And what I'm noticing, looking at the times, look at the top 10 are all within 1/10 of a second. Make that top 11 now within 1/10 of a second. But back to your point, yeah, we saw that out of a lot of guys taking the high line through the entire first lap. Very, very similar to what you see at Daytona and Talladega. With this new drafting style package, I think you're going to start seeing that more and more at tracks of this size, such as Charlotte, Atlanta, Texas, Kansas, Las Vegas. Tracks of that style, I think you may start seeing that more and more in qualifying efforts, not just Daytona and Talladega like we're used to seeing.
Yeah, absolutely. Evan Black just jumps up to third on the board, only 1/100th of a second off the top spot. Richard Stallings there in the number 17 taking times. That bright yellow and blue machine, you cannot miss that Chevrolet Camaro out there on the racetrack tonight. Jared Mogard is also taking time, and Mogard, I think that was his third lap. Yes, I think it was his third lap. So Mogard's lap would not count because he ran a really good lap time there.
And how about that? The time won't count, yes, but he was tied with Clarence Bonner, a 29.231. It was a dead tie between the 99 and the 00. Unfortunately, don't believe that lap will count for Mogard.
Yeah, actually, yeah, I think he is gonna sit 8th on the board. At least that's where he's being scored on the scoring pylon right now. There goes Kelsey Rogers in the number 35 machine. Kelsey out there right now, yet to take a time in that Chevrolet Camaro. We'll ride on board with him as he's out there right now. Got really close to that wall coming out of turn number 4. He's going to jump down to the bottom. That was his first lap, 30.026, which is miles off the pace. But let's see if Kelsey can use all that momentum he obtained on that first lap, riding down the backstretch right now on board with Mr. Rogers. And you can see all those bumps down the backstretch as that number 35 just kind of wallows down the backstretch. Man, he's going way down there, trying to shorten up the racetrack as much as possible. But Rogers now coming to the line. He's going to run a 29.258. That's going to move him up into the 13th position.
And just another 29.2. We're seeing that from several cars. Looks like the top 18 now are all in the 29.2 bracket. So, Peter, this is a very, very, very tight field coming into this. So, with these cars being as equal as it is in 134 laps of racing, guys who may have missed it by about 1/10 and they're going to be starting mid-pack, I don't think they have to worry about it too much just because we got such a long race ahead of them. And with just how even these cars are in the drafting package, this is going to shape up to be a pretty fun race.
Oh, absolutely. And of course, these ASRS Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series drivers always put on a show. They show quite a bit of patience out there, quite a bit. So, and you know, that kind of gives us a good show all the way throughout. And I'm expecting to see some of that patience early on. But of course, it being Charlotte and being one of the big races, it'd be interesting to see if that patience holds true or not. As you see, the number 84, that is Calvin Miller coming out onto the race circuit down the back stretch. Haven't seen much of Calvin Miller this year, but good to see him out there in that number 84 machine. We'll have to see if he can crack his way into the top 10.
And Peter, just look at the margin of distance here in the top 15. You got 5/10 of a second from first and second, 5 1,000ths of a second from first and second, 6 1,000ths of a second, second and third, 2 1,000ths back to fourth and fifth. Haight and Yazik are tied at a 29.215. Go back to a 2.27, then 4 1,000ths, and another tie. It's so close together here between these guys here at Charlotte. I mean, this is incredible. When have we ever seen a qualifying session this close at a track like Charlotte?
Yeah, it's definitely, a part of this new package that we have, but currently Tyler Seville in the number 11, currently sitting on the provisional pole for tonight's Sam Maxwell Customs Charlotte 200. 134 laps, 200 miles around this 1.5-mile track in Concord, North Carolina, even though it's considered Charlotte Motor Speedway. It's Concord, not too far outside of downtown Charlotte. As Calvin Miller's taken his second lap time with a 29.449 in that number 84 machine. He's going to pull that one off the racetrack down the back stretch, but unfortunately for him, that's only going to be 29th position currently, and that is 29th out of currently 29 qualifiers, so not exactly what Calvin Miller was looking for, but we still have 4 drivers in the server yet to qualify, those being Jason Stewart, Richard Fletcher, Jack Wells, and Lee Staples. So they have about a minute. They, I don't think they'd be able to get a fast lap time in if they were to leave the pit road right now, but we'll have to see if Jason, Richard, Jack, or Lee works their way onto the racetrack. Lee Staples has actually had some connection issues, so kind of a tough break for him. We'll have to keep an eye on that as this race progresses and the sun sets. But it does look like Tyler Saville will be your pole sitter for tonight's Sam Maxwell Customs Charlotte 200. And it's looking like it's going to be a really good field, very tight field, Greg. And that definitely will be good for us up in the booth.
Yeah, this is just going to be an insane first couple of laps. I think once we get to lap 10, if we can get to lap 10 in this first green flag run, I think we'll see things settle down. But I hope everyone at home buckles up because these first 10 laps are going to be absolutely wild.
Yeah, without a doubt. With only 8 seconds left, definitely all these drivers will have their heart rate up just a little bit. I know pretty much whenever I get into a race, there's always a little bit of butterflies in my stomach, but Tyler Saville getting the pole, that's definitely a good showing for that number 11 here. I think that is his first pole of the year. I'll double check on that, but we'll go to the grid here in just a second. But I really like this new, sideways start that we get here. All the new iRacing tracks have it, and I think it's pretty cool. You get to see all the cars lined up.
Absolutely. This is kind of a throwback. Well, not really a throwback, but this is a nod to the short track scene. Angle of 45 is what we call it in the short track scene, and this is incredible. So here we go with the starting lineup. Peter on the pole, Tyler Saville in the number 11 with a Toyota to his outside as well in the number 51 of Mitch Brown. In row number 2, it will be Evan Black in a Chevy. Another Chevy to his outside, Troy Haight in the 28. Brian Yazik, he tied with the 28 of Haight in a Ford, and Ty Hester in the 36. Apologize for the wrong number there.
And then on row number 4, it is going to be Clarence Bonner and Jared Mogard in the 99 and the 00. So double numbers are wild there. On row number 5, the 72, Michael Krobach, and the 86 of Jackson Van Valkenburg. Good to see him there. Is the 99 Clarence Bonner. He's rolling backwards there on the before the start. Jared Haggerty and Alex Giese are on row number 6 as the pace car drifts out of its position. Kelsey Rogers and Corey Silva make up row number 7. Row number 8 is made up of Richard Stallings and Sam Maxwell, of course, the sponsor for tonight's race, Sam Maxwell Customs 200. Doug Mullins and Chris Titus are on row number 9. Will Worsler and Tim Knott round out row number 10.
Andy Veltman will roll off in the 21st spot. To his outside will be the 66 of Edward Bray. Making up row 12 will be Alexander Pelican and Alan Young, 44 and 24. Jim Foose in the 42, Nick Curling rolling off in the 45, make up row 13. Dan Deffler in the 88, Steve Buhala in the 43, make up row 14. Rounding out the field will be Calvin Miller in the 84. Peter, we are coming to green. Field is about to go into the hands of Tyler Seville.
Yeah, Jason Stewart, Lee Staples, Richard Fletcher, Jack Wells, all those drivers did not take time, but they are currently out there on the racetrack, so they didn't quite make the scoring there at the bottom of the screen because they did not take time. However, they are out in the racetrack. We'll keep an eye on them as this race progresses. But the pace car lights are off. Pace car diving down. We're going to get set to go green flag racing for 200 miles, 134 laps around Charlotte Motor Speedway. Green flag is unfurled. We're racing here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Good start there by Tyler Seville and Mitch Brown to his outside. Look at that number 51 holding tough. He's got no help from behind. No one to bump draft him down into turn number 1, so that's going to hurt that outside line quite a bit. Look at that inside line already forming just a little bit. Brian Yazik, the 55 there, poking his nose up just a little bit as Mitch Brown is going to close that little void that Yazik just put there. And Mitch Brown now going to move up into the 3rd position, but this first lap will be led by Tyler Seville. As look at the back of the pack, absolutely crazy back there, side by side, pretty much all the way on back to the end of the field. In fact, it looks like there might be a few drivers back there kind of biding their time, Greg, because of all this pack racing right there in the middle of the field.
And we see that a lot at play tracks, so can't honestly say I'm surprised to see it with the new style racing that this new draft package brings. But look at Mitch Brown. He's gotten back around the 92 of Evan Black. He's back into the 2nd place after falling to 4th on the initial start. Now he's going for the lead on the outside of Seville. But don't look now because Evan Black is going to dive to the bottom. Brown with room right now if he wants to try to fall in. No, he's going to stick it out and go for the pass. And it looks like he might have it here. And right here, this is where we said the outside might be the advantage. Going into turn number 3. This could be Brown's shot right here if he can get a good run off turn number 4. But man, Seville just nailed the apex of 3 and 4 there. He's going to come by and lead the lap again. But Mitch Brown not going away in the 51.
Yeah, they're basically side by side up at the front. They're basically side by side all the way back to the 17th position. That 17th position held by Doug Mullins. He's actually the first driver who is single file around this racetrack. And as I say that, he's now double file with the 94 of Corey Silva. But up the front, it is still Tyler Seville leading over Mitch Brown. Now he goes single file, but my oh my, this racing is just crazy. Will Worsler sitting in the 18th position. There's a 17-car breakaway, and there's probably about 10 to 15 car lengths back to Will Worsler. There he is. He's leading the 2nd train of cars, as everyone in front of him are pretty much side by side. I'm wondering if Will is working his way backwards, or at least biding his time just a little bit. He hasn't worked his way backwards at all, because he started back there, but looking at comers and goers early on in this race, Ty Hester, he has dropped 6 positions from his 6th place starting spot. And we have a few people who've gained 2 or 3 positions, but no big movers as of yet.
So field beginning to settle out a little bit as we're now just double file. Seville has led every lap so far, but the battle up front not going away as Mitch Brown again gets another shot on the outside. I think he's too far ahead of Yazik, though, to really use a draft for his advantage, so Seville's going to lead the lap once again. But once again breaking out, there's Giese going toward 3 wide here, going into turn number 1. That's Kelsey Rogers on the inside. 1 car breaks loose. The 36, can he save it? No, and he goes around right in front of the pack. Contact.
Yeah, that's the worst place to spin, and look at everyone just being involved in this. Will Worsler in the 29's involved. Mayo, in fact, they're still going around. I think Jim Foose is involved in the number 42. Tough break for him. Definitely a tough break for a lot of these people back in the pack and you know, that is the worst place to lose control of your cars, right in front of the pack, and it kind of, you know, often leads to that. Let's go back and see exactly what happened here on this replay. A little bit of contact there with Alex Giese, yeah, and the number 77, that got that number 36 loose, and I mean, my oh my.
Yeah, who was that who did an amazing job getting through there? That red and yellow car didn't catch a number on there. Who was that did just a fantastic job getting through there? Let's take another look at it.
Yeah, you're riding on board, I believe, with Jim Foose in the number 42 for right now. And you can see it looked like he was clear right here. Then all of a sudden, the track just closed up right in front of him. Definitely a tough break. Jim Foose is one of those drivers who often keeps a clean race car, and that one doesn't look like it was anything of his own doing. The track just all of a sudden closed up in a second. Riding on board here was the number 24 of Alan Young. He was doing everything he could to save it. Looks like he got some piece of it early on in that accident, but luckily didn't get any further damage. As you can see, that wreck continued on for quite some time as everyone has come down pit road to get 4 fresh tires, I would presume. The only car out there on the racetrack right now is the pace car. Tyler Sauvel leads them down. Alex Giese, you see him coming off pit road. Not quite sure if he missed his stall. Getting a report that he did indeed. Clarence Bonner in the number 99. He's actually might have taken 2 tires as the rest of the field now heads off. Ooh, Tyler Sauvel, he lost quite a few spots on pit road.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it looked like Seville might have had an error on his pit stop somewhere because he lost a ton of spots. 4 spots at least on pit road, not counting the spot he lost to Giese and Bonner. I saw 4 cars beat Seville off that took 4 tires, so not a good pit stop for the 11 of Seville. Let's see if Giese comes back around to hit this time. Bonner will be the leader in the 99 if Giese does pull in. So we will see what Giese decides, or if he decides to stay out an extra lap to get a lap lead, and no, he's just going to pull down pit road.
And does indeed look like he will head down pit road. Of course, he has a little bit of right side damage on that number 77 Trek Chevrolet. We do want to make note that Steve Buhala, he had to serve a black flag penalty at the start of this race. He was black flagged on the first lap. He came down pit road. I believe he lost a lap. However, that machine has now got the lucky dog, and Steve Buhala is back on track. Of course, he's sporting different colors this week, a little bit of a patriotic scheme on that number 43, which is pretty cool to see. As you look a little bit further back in the pack, there is the number 1 of Jason Stewart in that Toyota. Good to see him on track. There's the number 18 of Doug Mullins. We briefly mentioned him a little while ago, that he was pretty much the only, or one of the first cars, a single file. So the field just all double file there early on with a lot of frantic action. Kind of hard to stay on top of it with the battle for the lead being such a good battle with Tyler Seville. But it'll be interesting to see what that number 11 can do now that he's a little bit further back in the pack. He isn't going to be starting here up at the front. There's the number 41, Tim Knott, in that machine. And Tim Knott has gained 5 positions since the start of this race. Started in the 20th position, now running in 15th. The biggest mover so far, Jason Stewart. He was one of those drivers not to take time, and after 10 laps, he's gained 11 positions. And Richard Fletcher right behind him, he's one of those other drivers who didn't take time. He's up 12. So definitely good to see some of these drivers already working their way through the field. Of course, that accident might have helped that situation, but nonetheless, Greg, you know, with this pack racing, it seems like it's going to be fairly difficult to pass because they're just, you know, side by side. There's not really anywhere to go. So it seems like maybe qualifying is fairly important, but there's still a long time in this race to make up positions.
And what I'm wondering is with track position proving to be as important as it is, I'm wondering when we're going to start seeing some pit strategy come into play more often than just Clarence Bonner taking 2 tires. I'm wondering when we will start seeing more and more guys think about taking 2 tires, but I think that that's all going to depend on how that 99 car does on this restart right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And, Clarence only had 6 green flag laps on his right side tires before he changed them. So on his left side tires, he's got 6 extra green flag laps. That's how the math works out. So, it'll be interesting to see what the 6 laps different on left side tires actually does here for both the 99 and the remainder of the field in comparison. As pace car lights are off, we're getting set to go back to green flag racing. For all your Jim Foose fans, he's still out there on the racetrack. His car is a modified, but currently running in the 27th position. Or 26th position, actually, excuse me. But that number 42 modified is still out there, along with Ty Hester and a couple of other drivers who were involved in that accident. In fact, the only driver who's currently off the racetrack is Lee Staples. But the green flag is back in the air here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Clarence Bonner will lead the field down. Good restart for that number 99. I was a little bit concerned with possible wheel spin. It's 6 laps on your tires doesn't sound like too much, especially when it's on your left sides, but it is iRacing, and wheel spin does happen on this surface. And look at Brian Yazek in the number 55 machine. We haven't seen all too much out of Brian Yazek this year. It hasn't been quite his year, but that number 55 has now moved himself to side-by-side for the race lead, going off into turn number 3 and 4. But Evan Black pushed him into that position, but Evan Black kind of said, oh, we have another caution on the racetrack. Oh, it's a big wreck coming out of turn number 4.
Big wreck back there. Alan Young and Ty Hester, both cars were involved in that first one, and again getting swept up. So not the day that Hester and Young at least were looking for. Let's see if anyone else was caught up in it.
Yeah, it looks like a little bit of a nudge there through the center of turn number 3 and 4. Ooh, might have gotten Buhala possibly in the number 43. In fact, it does look like the 43 was involved, which is a shame. But definitely the 24 of Alan Young, the 36 of Ty Hester, receiving the biggest chunk of that one. And you see that little bit of nudge looking out the back of that number 24 machine, looking onto the nose of the 36 of Ty Hester. And Alan going for a spin, some pretty decent contact with that outside wall. Federated Auto Parts Chevrolet Camaro definitely not having the start to this race that he was looking for.
You see right there, just the contact with Young just sends him around, and unfortunate for both guys. And we are back under caution for the second time. And Peter, one thing I noticed on that initial restart, I was watching the 51 of Mitch Brown, and exactly like the initial start, he kind of fell back 3 or 4 rows before he was able to settle down. So that 51 of Mitch Brown you're looking at right now, the Toyota, he may not be holding too strong on the outside at the initial start, but he seems to come alive after about half a lap or so. But with him being in the 5th position, if they all stay out, which I believe they will, as we didn't even get 1 lap in on those tires, he will be restarting this time on the inside, I believe. So I'll be keeping an eye on the 51 to see if that's just a restart problem all around, or if there's maybe a problem with the outside lane on the initial start.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I mean, I think that outside line, you just can't quite get a run. It is, of course, the longer way around the racetrack, and if you don't have your momentum up, which you really need to get that outside line working, is you need that momentum, that speed. You need to carry that speed. But if everyone's accelerating uniformly, then you have a fairly major disadvantage on that high line, especially on a shorter track like a 1.5 mile versus a 2 mile or a 2.5 mile. I mean, we see it at Daytona and Talladega that outside line just doesn't quite have the push, at least for the first quarter of the lap. But once you get to the backstretch, that's usually when that high line starts to come in. So I'm not all too surprised that we're seeing something similar to that here so far, but of course it's still early. I think if you're on that outside line, you're going to have to time that restart almost perfectly to be able to make that work. But we'll have to keep an eye and see if that is a storyline as the night progresses. But we're currently working lap number 15 of 134. Only about 22.5 miles into this race so far. But definitely there's a lot of side-by-side action, and I think that's kind of led to some of the accidents so far. Alan Young in that number 24 machine. He's working his way off pit road right now. Jim Foose, Alexander Pelican, 2 drivers received damage in the first accident. They've stayed on pit road for pretty much as long as they could to get as much damage repaired. There is the number 6 machine, and that is a great looking machine. Of course, the number 6 driven by Jared Haggerty. Kind of a retro Mark Martin throwback in that number 6. Really awesome to see. I really like that number 84 right behind him. I know a lot of people, sometimes diss on Mr. Pibb, but Mr. Pibb's pretty cool.
Mr. Pibb. I think that was the 86 you were looking at, Peter, not the 84. But
I don't know.
Yeah, numbers. 86 right there, Mr. Pibb, Volkenberg. But hey, Mr. Pibb actually is a pretty good soda, but he's currently sitting in the 10th position.
I might be burned on a stake for saying that because I'm from Texas, and here in Texas, Dr. Pepper rules. So, for saying Mr. Pibb is, I could be burned on a stake. But, of course, Dr. Pepper was invented here in Texas, deep in the heart of Texas, in Waco, Texas, where Dr. Pepper was originally made with all 23 flavors. But definitely...
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, they actually have a museum, and they're offering a thing where the 100,000th visitor or millionth visitor, something like that, gets Dr. Pepper free for a year, plus I think a big check or something like that. So if you're in Texas, maybe think about going to stop by that Dr. Pepper museum. But here we are at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Clarence Bonner, his 2-tire gamble paid off there, at least for that 3/4 of the lap that we got in, just about. Well, looks like we got one driver down there. Apron. Yeah, Yazik down there on the apron. Wonder if he's making an adjustment to his steering wheel or something of the sort. He's going to pull back in line as the pace car lights are off. Look at that field lined up, double file. Nice and neatly. You see, I think that's Jim Foose back there poking his nose out in that number 42 modified. Definitely not the best looking machine out there anymore, but had a great paint scheme on that number 42 Maxwell Chevrolet tonight. Unfortunately, that damage has hindered that. Alexander Pelican hustling his way off pit road to try and stay on the lead lap here as pace car dives down. In fact, you see the lights on that pace car as the sun continues to set here. But the number 99, Clarence Bonner, is going to lead him back to the green flag. Gets another really good restart. We'll have to see how that outside line does, as Evan Black didn't get a great restart. He's got the number 55 of Brian Yazik to his inside here as they dive off into turn number 1. And now going through turn number 2, you see that 92 just kind of sliding back just a little bit. He's going to get a good run down the backstretch, though, as he has that momentum up. Here comes the number 99 of Tyler Seville. He's right behind the 55 of Yazik. He's looking to push that number 55 up to the front. And Greg, once again, we're double file throughout pretty much the entire field.
And knock, knock, don't look now. Here comes the points leader. Jared Mogart just cracked the top 5 for the first time today. Into 00, you're on board with the number 6 Valvoline Toyota of Jared Haggerty. I mean, I don't know how I didn't say Ford there, because I'm just so used to saying Valvoline Ford, but it's a Toyota, but it's a great looking ride for Haggerty. But Jared Bogart giving Evan Black a big push down the backstretch into turn number 3 that time, side by side with Bonner. Man, that was too close to call it the line. I believe it was Bonner, but Black got the nose in front in turn number 1. But here comes Mogard giving a push to Evan Black. He's going to give him a huge shot down the backstretch here.
Yeah, that push with all that momentum down the backstretch, that's actually going to pole vault that number 92 into the lead, at least briefly. I think Black's going to lead this lap time as he has cleared the number 99 of Bonner, but that outside groove now starting to gain momentum as we have another caution out on the racetrack. There's a car hard in the inside wall. Chris Titus also involved in the number 25 there. The 84, the 24 again. Alan Young it's not his night as Steve Buhala scoots through there. Let's go see.
Saw the 84 in it down there as well, the number 1, Jason Stewart.
Yeah, that number 1.
Oh, and Alan Young just got clipped there, and I believe, was that the 29 of Worsler that also caught a piece of that there, trying to squirt through? I believe that was Will Worsler.
Yeah, Will Worcer's had a tough start to this race. In that number 29 machine, he's received damage on 2 of the accidents so far. Yes, he did. He got doored by the number 84 that was coming down the racetrack. There's the number 1, Jason Stewart.
He almost got through there. He got collected at the last possible second. Did the one of Jason Stewart.
Definitely a tough break. Alan Young, 3 for 3 in these accidents. That's definitely not the way you want to start your race. Ooh, look at that.
Yeah, Wurzler did a good job to dodge the number 1 of Stewart, especially with the fact that he had just gotten clipped a couple minutes earlier. Probably didn't have all his bearings about him. He was more focused on just trying to gather the car up, and did a great job to dodge Stewart there. Man, that was a hard hit there for the 25 as well.
Yeah, unfortunately, Chris Titus's engine has blown after that contact with Nick Curling, and that number 25 appears to be headed to the garage here tonight, which is going to be a tough break for him. And it looks like we have some takers on pit road. Others decided to stay out. Looks like it's pretty much a 50-50 split throughout the field of the drivers coming down, but Tyler Seville, your pole sitter, has elected to come down pit road. So that's an interesting call. Troy Haight in the number 28 right behind him. He also came down, and here comes Michael Krobach coming off pit road.
And Krobach was the first car to make the pit, but ooh, did Seville beat him there?
Looks like he did. Krobach's giving up that position just to the right of this camera now as the whole field now filters off pit road. You see Alexander Pelican there in that JBL Toyota with damage from that first accident.
Here you see the cars that stayed out, led by new leader Evan Black with Clarence Bonner on the bumper of him, Jared Mogard in third. So this is what I was talking about earlier. This is right around when I thought we would start seeing some strategy maybe come into play. Stay out, come in, take 2 tires, take 4 tires. I'm curious to see how it evolves from here, because now we've got some different strategies in the field. Now let's see who's wearing their crew chief hat the best right now.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to put things into perspective for everyone watching, the top 12 cars stayed out on the race circuit. Tyler Seville will be the first car on fresh tires. He took 4 fresh tires. Michael Krobach, Troy Haight, Richard Stallings, Richard Fletcher, Jack Wells, Alexander Pelican, Sam Maxwell. That essentially rounds out your top 20, at least the drivers who did take tires. So Evan Black, Clarence Bonner, Jared Mogard, Mitch Brown, Jared Haggerty, Kelsey Rogers, Jackson Van Volkenberg, Doug Mullins, Corey Silva, and Tim Knott, Edward Bray, Alex Giese are first through 12. All those drivers are on about 13 lap old tires. Not too many green flag laps on those tires, but they do have older tires than 13th on back.
So we will see how it goes down. Working lap 23 of 134. And there you see on your ticker right there, laps since last pit stop. And most of them sitting at 14. A couple of them sitting at 15. Tim Knott and Edward Bray sitting at 15. Giese with one less lap on the tires than our top 9. So definitely some varying strategies. You take a look at the 41 and the 66. Those are the 2 cars right there, Tim Knott, Edward Bray, that have one more lap on the tires. Actually, yep, I went wonky for a second and thought I saw something that didn't. But so varying strategies out there right now, Peter, and it's only going to get more interesting from here.
Want to highlight one driver that we saw up in the field earlier on. That's Brian Yazik in the number 55. He's having connection issues. It's definitely a tough break for him. There you see the number 98 of Sam Maxwell. Of course, Sam Maxwell Customs sponsoring tonight, Sam Maxwell Customs 200. Great to see them. If you haven't ever checked out Sam Maxwell Customs, go online, Google Sam Maxwell Customs, because Sam Maxwell Customs makes some fantastic sim racing equipment. They definitely have some of the coolest button boxes and steering wheels out there on the market. In fact, they now have these new button boxes that actually mount to your steering wheel. They can basically mount to pretty much any steering wheel out there on the market. So if you have a sim wheel, definitely check those out. They're pretty cool to look at, along with all the other things that Sam Maxwell does. Of course, Sam Maxwell is one of the Ford drivers, and this will be the last race for the Ford Fusion in the Cup Series. After this race, the next Cup Series race will feature the Ford Mustang. So that's going to be a cool little addition to the series once iRacing gets the new Ford Mustang that you see each and every week in the NASCAR Monster Energy Cup Series. But pace car lights are back off, and Evan Black is currently your race leader. Pace car dives down onto pit road once again. Green flag going to be back in the air. There it is. The crowd goes wild with all of their cameras, and Evan Black will lead the way here. Great push early on by Jared Mogard. They're side by side now for the second position. Clarence Bonner is in third, at least for now. That outside line once again just not going anywhere, Greg, on these restarts. It definitely seems like not the place to be, but we're going 3 wide now for the 5th position.
And remember, Clarence Bonner still on those 2 older left side tires. He's been on the same left side since the start of the race, and he just caught the wall in turn 3. Looks like just the sheer amount of cautions and not pitting looks like that may be beginning to bite Clarence Bonner, because he has not changed left side tires yet today, and I think he is the only one that still is on those same left side tires. So this could prove costly if he doesn't get another caution very quickly.
Yeah, and look at this back up at the front. Jared Mogard has taken the 00 up to the front, at least briefly, down the back stretch with help from the number 6 of Jared Haggerty. That 00 is going to have the momentum going out turn number 4. Jared Mogard leads the lap here at Charlotte with just over 100 laps to go. What a move by
Haggerty.
Yeah, I was just about to say.
Move.
Haggerty took his opportunity to dive down there to the inside line. He's going to clear Mogard in the 00. Coming out of turn number 2, but here comes Mogard. Haggerty's going to throw the block on him, and almost contact there.
He had to go below the blue line, and that allowed Mitch Brown in the 51 to get the spot. And here comes Clarence Bonner back in the 99. So, I mean, he's proving the announcers wrong right now. Clarence Bonner doing a great job with those same 2 left side tires, as Jared Haggerty has really done a good job working his way to the front to lead this race. But look at the side-by-side racing back here for, looks like 5th on back now, as Kelsey Rogers has cleared Evan Black, and now Edward Bragg going to work on Black, bringing the 86 of Volkenberg with him. Man, this is insane to watch, as Mogard now tries to get to the inside of, was that Bonner, or the outside of Bonner, I should say.
Yeah, and I saw that number 99 of Bonner in turns number 3 and 4. He kept it down there on the inside line, and all of a sudden it looked like that number 99 started to wash up just a little bit through the center of the corner. I think he had to pedal it a little bit. That allowed Mogard to get to his outside. Mogard still trying to make that move, as we have a little bit of a 2-car breakaway up the front between Haggerty and Mitch Brown. But Kelsey Rogers now side by side with the number 99. That is a battle for the 4th position. Really tight coming out off the corner, but Rogers is going to make that pass stick. Here comes Edward Bray. Bray is one of those drivers who did not pit under this last pit stop in that number 66 machine. He's going to move up, looking a little bit further back. This is a battle between Richard Fletcher and the number 41, I believe. 44, excuse me, of Alexander Pelican.
Pelican, he's doing a pretty good job with that beat-up race car after getting caught up in one of those earlier incidents. We see another couple of cars with some damage right there, but I'm impressed that Pelican's able to really keep up with these guys right now, just with the fact that how torn up that car is, especially with how aero-sensitive these newer Cup cars have proven to be over the last few years.
Absolutely. Troy Haight, the driver in the number 28 machine, he has taken that machine to the garage. Of course, he was involved in this last accident. Tough break for him in that number 28 machine. But there's the number 41, Tim Knott there, just on your left side of your screen in that Toyota Camry. Focus on him there just a second. And that's an SMS machine, Sim Marketing Solutions. There he is. And Tim Knott's had a pretty decent night. Started in the 20th position, now running up in the 10th position. As you see all this battling up at the front. Look at Van Valkenburg in that Mr. Pibb machine, currently in the 6th position. Edward Bray right in front of him in that number 66, going down to throw a block on the 72 of Michael Krobach. Krobach in that number 72. He started in the 9th position, pretty much been in the top 10 this entire race. Looking a little bit further back, here's two teammates, 94 and 92. 94 of Corey Silva, 92 of Evan Black. Remember that those two drivers did stay out, and out of the drivers who did come in and pit, Michael Krobach is the first one on the freshest tires, as they've now got about 12 laps on his tires versus pretty much double that for the cars around him. So keep an eye on Michael Krobach as he continues to move forward. There's Brian Yazik in the 55. Looks like his connection issues have worked themselves out. Good to see that, but he currently runs one lap down in that number 55 machine, so he will need a lucky dog to contend with some of the cars around him. But definitely some great racing throughout the field, Greg.
This is incredible. I am absolutely in love with this new package that they brought this week to Charlotte. And we said it before we even went on air. We said that this was going to be a very interesting race to watch how it all unfolded. And I am just amazed at what these guys are doing right now as we look at the 44 Pelican, who's still doing a great job hanging in there. Unfortunately, to see Yazik has fallen that far back in the 55 after he had such a great run going in the early stages in that Ford Fusion. We go on board with him right now. I believe he's trying to chase down, is that the 41 of Knott in front of him? I can't tell. No, it's the 47, my mistake.
Yeah, that's Richard Stallings in the 47 there, as we have a side-by-side battle for the race lead. Up the front, Mogard once again looking for the race lead on Jared Haggerty. And Haggerty had that breakaway with Mitch Brown, but Mogard closed in on those two. And now Mogard's going to put that 0-0 to the front here briefly. But Haggerty's going to do the crossover down the back stretch. We'll have to see what he can do through turns number 3 and 4. Greg, we were talking about it earlier, that 3 and 4 is pretty difficult to pass because the car tends to wash up a little bit, and I think you saw that right there.
Yeah, you saw it right there with Haggerty, but that was the exact same move that got Haggerty the lead from Mogard in the first place. But going back to what you mentioned just a moment ago about Mogard able to close it in, we've seen that more on this style of track. We see that at the super speedways a lot, where the leader gets too big of a lead, the field behind them can close in. We might see it here as Kelsey Rogers gives Haggerty a little bit of a shove, but if the leader gets a little bit too far ahead, the rest of the field can draft right back up to him, and they can freight train him, and we saw that a little bit with Mogard and Haggerty. However, Mogard was far enough ahead of the third place Kelsey Rogers that Haggerty was able to dive bomb and take another stab at it. But here we see another mid-pack battle. That's Bonner in the 99, Stallings the 71. We've got Silva, Black, Valkenburg side-by-side there. 94, 92, two very similar looking cars. Kind of had a hard time telling them apart at the start of the race once I got which car was which straightened out, as Alex Giese joins the field as well. Giese, another one who's doing a good job after being caught up in that initial accident. Looks like they got the damage repaired on that 77 car. So Giese doing a fine job getting up there. Here you see Tim Knott trying to battle. Saw some smoke there off of turn number 2. Oh, that was just something else, so don't worry about that. But here comes the 55 as a battle breaking out. Here's Krobach back up there in the mix with Rogers and Haggerty. This is for third, Peter.
Yeah, absolutely. The battle up the front has been absolutely spectacular. Haggerty and Rogers now going at it as we have a battle for the race lead between Mogart and Seville. Seville is one of those drivers who elected to pit under this last caution, and I think those fresh tires now starting to show their muscle as he's going to go to the inside of Mogart here through turns number 3 and 4. That battle behind is going to go to Haggerty, at least for now, over Kelsey Rogers. Krobach going to dive to the inside of the 35, but back in front, Seville just trying to use that inside line to get past Mogart, not quite able to do so yet. That car, whoever the leader is, has the benefit of always having clean air, and I'm not quite sure if that's affecting that number 11? I wouldn't think so, because the 11's running a different line than the race leader. That's able to get a lot of air on the nose and give that car downforce, and I'm sure that's why Seville is doing that. It'll be interesting to see if he resorts to what we were talking about earlier, Greg, maybe seeing if he can get a run around the outside later on, but just still trying that inside groove. Another driver trying the inside groove there is the number 1, Jason Stewart. He's been involved in a couple of accidents here so far, but he's trying to get around the number 18 of Doug Mullins. Mullins currently holding the 15th position, the number 1 trying to take that from him, at least for now. It was side-by-side battle between Alex Giese and Richard Stallings. Stallings is on, he's one of the drivers who stopped under that last pit stop. Giese is one of the drivers who elected to stay out. So it's interesting to see, Greg. We have drivers throughout this field on older tires. They're not that much older, but they are a little bit older, but they seem like they're able to compete with the newer tires. So it doesn't look like tires, at least, plus or minus 10 laps, doesn't seem to matter all too much.
I'm very, very impressed with that fact, especially with the 99 of Clarence Bonner. He's still 45 laps in. He still is on the left side tires that he started the race with. This is incredible to have watched him be able to stick up there. He's still in the top 10 as he fends off the 92 of Evan Black for now. He got a great run on the outside. That outside lane is so strong right now as we take a look at Stallings and Giese. But yeah, like you said, tires not really coming into play as much as we thought they would so far, but I think if we stay green much longer, that's when I think we'll start seeing the fall off really begin to affect them as we just keep putting laps and laps and laps on these tires.
Yeah, absolutely. Look at this battle. That's Alexander Pelican. He's a little bit, quite far back in the pack in that number 44 machine, but he's still out there chugging around, and that number 44 currently rides in the 18th position, which is not that bad. In fact, it's better than where he qualified. Qualified in 23rd. Right behind him is the 80 of Jack Wells. So that battle is 18th, 19th, and 20th on the racetrack as they continue to swap positions. Sometimes when you have a car with some damage and you have some other cars around you, it just punches a little bit bigger hole in the air. And it causes some, flip-flopping of positions quite a bit, especially on a track where drafting is so important. But look at this, still back up at the front, still side by side for the race lead between the number 11 and the 00. Mogart up there, Seville down there on the bottom. So what can he do in that number 11 machine? He's just not quite able to find a way around Mogart as of yet. It must be quite frustrating as a driver to know that you were able to at least catch Mogart, but you're just not able to make that pass, as he had to pedal it there to avoid contact with the 00.
And if he wants to make a move, he better make it now, because Krobach is coming in the 72 in a hurry, as that side-by-side battle really allowed the 72 of Krobach to gain some ground on our top two, as Seville kind of settles down and begins to cool his tires off for another run as another battle breaks out side by side back here. I believe this is for 5th between Silva in the 94 and Haggerty in the 6. And Haggerty's going the wrong way, Peter. After leading some laps midway through this first half of the race, Haggerty's really starting to go the wrong way. But it looks like he's going to tuck in right on the tail of Silva and just try to stay with him for the time being.
Yeah, that's definitely going to be difficult for Haggerty, but we'll keep an eye on that as this race progresses. Well, ladies and gentlemen, let's take you through the field as we have just now reached lap number 50. And, of course, your race leader is driver of the number 00, started in the 8th position, gained 7 positions, and that's Jared Mogart. Right behind him was your pole sitter at the beginning of this race, Tyler Seville. Great run for him, his first pole of the season in the Cup Series. And that number 11 pretty much been up there near the top of the scoring pylon for most of this race in that number 11, but currently sits right behind the 00. And right behind them is Michael Krobach in the number 72. And keep in mind that both the number 72 and Seville right in front of him, both of those drivers have a few lap fresher tires than Jared Mogart. So Krobach was one of those drivers who did decide to pit. He's trying to make inroads on the race lead. running lap times very comparable with that of Mogart and Seville up at the front. Sitting in the 4th position is driver number 35, Big Wave Chevrolet. And he has gained 9 positions from the start of this race, as Kelsey Rogers started 13th, and currently also running lap times just a little bit faster than Mogart. At least last time by, he was just about a 10th faster than Mogart. So Kelsey Rogers also starting to make inroads on the race lead, currently about 1.4 seconds off the race lead. Another half second behind him is driver the number 94. That's Corey Silva. Corey Silva, of course, one of the primetime racing drivers. His teammate Evan Black's been winning quite a bit recently, so Corey trying to get on the win sheet here once again in the Cup Series. Definitely kind of had an uneventful race so far, but an uneventful race so far. It's a good race for Corey, as he's worked his way up from a 14th place starting position. Jared Haggerty, we've mentioned him. He was up the point not too long ago, and he has slid back to the 6th position, but currently, last time by, he was running just about the same lap time as Mogart up the front, so currently not losing any time to the race leader. But as you can see, this field is starting to stretch out just a little bit. Right behind him, this is a side-by-side battle for the 7th position between Edward Bray. Good run for Bray. He started in 22nd all the way up to 7th. And right behind him is the number 92, Evan Black. We mentioned that he won the Truck Series race at Charlotte Motor Speedway last week in that number 92 machine. He's trying to make that pass work, and let's just keep an eye on this battle here for just a moment, because Greg, you know, the 92 is using that high line. We mentioned it earlier, that high line, sometimes you can make passes up there, and I think that's what Evan Black's doing right here.
And he set that up off of turn 2 the previous lap. He knew that that was going to be his shot. He just let Bray take the spot for that time being. He set it up right there the previous lap. He can get such a run on the outside. But Evan Black did a great job not burning the run right away there. He waited until he could carry the momentum off turn number 4. It looks like Everett Bray was thinking about the same move, but Black, was able to get a good enough run off turn number 4. He was able to pull away. And for the lead, we'll go back to through the field in just a moment, as Seville has the nose in front of Mogard. Krobach is there, but Seville had him down the beginning of the backstretch. But man, once again, that outside lane just carries so much stronger down the backstretch. But Seville, this is where he had a little throttle the 1 point a few laps ago, able to make it stick that time. Will he lead the lap at the line? Yes, he will. Give it to Seville at the line.
Yeah, and Tyler led that lap by 29 thousandths of a second as they worked their way through turns number 1 and 2. That inside line will prevail. Now we'll have to see if Seville decides to take a defensive line down the backstretch, because here comes Mogard once again. Mogard now sniffing the race lead, trying to get it back. He's going to dive to the inside line, but we've seen that inside line struggle through turns number 3 and 4. Not this time. Mogard's going to stay side by side with that number 11 machine all the way through the front stretch. And I think that double zeros set up perfectly for turns number 1 and 2. No, not this time. Mogard had to pedal it just a little bit through the center of the corner, and Seville's going to get a great run down the backstretch. Move that number 11 to the outright lead, at least for now, but look at that number 72 starting to close in just a little bit. Mark Krobach now within 4 tenths of a second. As we'll keep an eye on the race lead, let's continue going through the field. Now we have the number 51, Mitch Brown. He's lost 7 positions, started on the outside pole. Greg, we saw him struggle on the outside line early in the going, but he's kept that number 51 machine nice and clean, and currently running in 9th. Kept keeping all fenders on that machine. He is one of those drivers who decided to come down, I do believe, under the last pit stop. No, I take that back. He actually stayed out. So definitely on a little bit older tires. And around him is the number 55 of Brian Yazik, but Yazik is still a lap down. Yazik's been relatively quick, but unfortunately that number 55 sits 1 lap down at this present moment in time. There's the number 77, Alex Giese, involved in the first accident here tonight, but that number 77 has basically rallied his way back into the top 10. So good to see Giese, because Giese's had some rough and rotten luck. so far in this Cup Series season. Definitely needs to get a good run here tonight. Jason Stewart, another one of those drivers with some damage out there, but that number 1 machine still out there turning very respectable lap times. He's worked his way up into the 11th position. That Sim Marketing Solutions driver, sporting a little bit different colors here tonight, but definitely racing for Sim Marketing Solutions on that machine. Good to see him running in the 11th position. Also talk about Sim Marketing Solutions, there's another one of their drivers, Tim Knott in the number 41. Basically, you know, it's been a fairly quiet night for Tim. That's, I think, been pretty much a good thing for him. Kept out of the trouble, and he's been close to some of the trouble, as you see. Ben Volkenberg on pit road. Here comes Pelican on pit road as well. The 42, Jim Foose on pit road. So a couple of takers here, and these drivers who elected not to pit under this last caution, Greg, they currently have 55 laps since their last pit. The drivers who did pit under the last caution have 42 laps, so not that much fresher tires and not that much more fuel. But I'm wondering if some of these drivers are getting low on fuel, and that's why they're coming down pit road. Maybe they're sick and tired of those old tires and just want some fresh ones. Definitely starting to see some different strategy calls here.
Yeah, I don't think these guys were anticipating this long of a green flag run, as I believe that was Haggerty that just pulled into the pits in the 6th. And I can't say I'm surprised to see him be one of the first cars to pull off, because that 6th car, yes, that was him. The Valvoline Toyota was really beginning to fall off as the run went longer and longer. A few more takers coming down pit road, but I don't think those guys who stayed out were expecting this long of a green flag run, as boy, Seville has really pulled away from Mogard and Krobach, as those two have really having a heated battle for second right now. Krobach hasn't been able to get it yet, but here he is taking a shot on the outside. Mogard trying to stick to the bottom. More drivers on pit road. That's a couple guys that are in the top 5 there. Black and Rogers in the 92, Silva as well in the 94. As Mitch Brown coming down as well. So middle of the top 10 beginning to come down now. How long do you think until we see our top 3 of Seville, Mogard, and Krobach make the call to come down?
I don't think it can be too much longer, as you see Alex Giese come down pit road. I'm looking at lap times, Greg, and your race leader last time by ran a 30.545 second lap time, and that is about 1.7 seconds off his fastest lap of the race. So every lap that he stays out there in the racetrack, he's losing probably 1.5 seconds to these drivers on fresh tires. Now, the only thing that could be a little bit different is if he's looking to stretch it. You know, at this present moment in time, we have about 66 laps remaining, and drivers like Mogard's already run 59 laps. So, you know, if Mogard can stretch it another 3 laps or so, Mogard will have essentially split this last, since his last pit stop, split it in half. So, you know, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Mogard stay out another 3 laps or so. Well, just as I say that, Jerry Mogard on pit road said this is an interesting thing. Edward Bray also on pit road. Greg, just as I was saying this, you know, I was thinking that if Mogard could stretch it 3 more laps, he would have split that last run to the finish in half, but he's pitted a little bit short of that. So I'm wondering if the 00 might be a little bit short on fuel from here, while Tyler Seville, he's going to stay out a couple more laps to see if he can get within his window to make it to the end on only 1 more stop, which could definitely be very interesting. Of course, you know, it's a strategy call, could work out, could work against you, but only time will tell whether or not it will work out for that number 11 of Tyler Seville. As you see, a lot of these drivers out there on track. There's the number 35, Kelsey Rogers, with the 94, Corey Silva. They're, of course, on 4 fresh tires. And look at that, Jared Mogard, right side of your screen, lost that much track position. Now, Mogard is going to be behind these two. And Greg, with how difficult we've seen it to be to pass, and we saw that there wasn't much difference in pace from, you know, a couple laps fresher tires, I think this could be a major disadvantage to some of these drivers who are going a little bit longer if they cannot make it on fuel. That is going to be the big question with Tyler Seville out there. I think he's stretching it, and I think he will be able to make it on fuel, but some of these drivers who didn't pit early, and if they still can't make it on fuel, I think that is going to be a little bit troublesome for them.
But here's the thing that you have to think about. We don't normally think about it at a track like Charlotte, but with this new draft package that we're seeing, will we see guys try to use the draft like they do at Daytona and Talladega to also save fuel? Tuck in behind the car. You don't have to use as much throttle, as much fuel. Will we start seeing guys more just try to pull up and save fuel?
Yeah, that definitely could happen, and there used to be a good way to save fuel with the old package. You could just roll out of the throttle a little bit earlier. In fact, some drivers would dip the clutch in the middle of the corner to drop the RPMs, that sort of thing, to save fuel. But because of this new package, you have the RPMs up pretty much all the way around the racetrack. You can't do that anymore. You lose way too much time if you clutch the car or you roll out the throttle for too long. So really, the ability of a driver to save fuel is now kind of reduced to what you exactly said there, Greg, to really just dip in behind a car and use the draft to kind of pull you along the straightaway so you don't have to run full throttle down the straightaway. And that is kind of completely contrary to what we used to see at tracks like Charlotte Motor Speedway. And it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as you see this gaggle of cars going around the racetrack. I believe that's the number 45, Nick Curling there in the middle. Of course, Curling has received damage, I think, on multiple occasions. That's in the first accident here tonight, the second accident here tonight in that number 45 machine. He is not quite on the pace, unfortunately, sitting 2 laps down currently. As you see that battle right in front of him between Mogard, the 94 of Corey Silva, and of course Rogers. Tyler Seville on pit road.
That's your race leader pulling in. So lap 76 for Seville. And is the lap that he pits. Peter, do you think he can make it if we go green rest of the way?
So let's go back and look at Jared Mogard. So Mogard made it just over 60 laps, about 61 laps. And, he had a few laps of caution on that run as well. So I think Seville will be very close. Based on the number of caution flag laps that Mogard had, I think it's going to be difficult for Seville to actually make it. But it's going to be close. So we'll have to keep an eye on that.
And again, that's only if this race goes green the rest of the way. I think if we can get one more caution, it will be good for the rest of the field, as we see the rest of the field who hadn't quite come down pit road yet. Here's Krobach. He was your leader in the 72. He was the one who inherited the lead. Here comes Stewart. The last few cars beginning their pit stops. These are the guys who I think if they can make it go now, I think they'll be able to make it. Sam Maxwell, the 98, inherits the lead. I think that these guys right here, though, I think they're going to be hoping there's at least one more caution so they don't have to worry about it. I think one more caution, and I think most guys will be good.
Yeah, in fact, looking at this run, those 2 drivers who just pitted, they had 56 laps. And 56 laps, isn't quite going to get you there because we have just over 56 laps to go. Sam Maxwell now on pit road. He actually topped off with fuel, I believe, under that last pit stop. So he ran 55 laps since he last pitted. So, Sam Maxwell, he made it 55 laps. He was one of the last drivers to pit, so he had the fewest number of caution flag laps on his fuel run, and he made it 55 laps. There's 56 laps to go right now. So it's going to be very close for those drivers who just pitted. I think Seville might be a few laps short. We'll have to see if he decides to go into save mode here. It's going to be very difficult. We're 3 wide here right now, riding on board with Jim Foose. Mitch Brown took it 3 wide, and Nick Curling in the middle, who we saw 4 wide in the NASCAR All-Star race this past week, as really close between the 45 and the 42 there, going through turns number 1 and 2. But this is a battle. Those 2 drivers are 1 lap down. Jason Stewart in the number 1 machine, sitting 1 lap down as well. We'll have to see if that's just because of the pit cycle or not. But Jared Mogard, actually, yes, Jared Mogard has put him a lap down. Look at Mogard. Mogard has been able to just pull away from Kelsey Rogers and Corey Silva. Wasn't much of a battle. Mogard has only 3 laps fresher tires than Rogers, Silva, and Black, but he's been able to just stretch the lead quite amazingly. But Tyler Seville, got to keep an eye on this guy. He's down in the 9th position currently, if you're right on board with Evan Black. But Seville is currently running about a second faster than Mogard, but he is currently 10 seconds off the lead. So we'll have to see how that all plays out. Definitely the different strategies are all of a sudden very prevalent all the way around the racetrack as you ride on board with the 94, I believe it was. But look at this battle still raging on between Jim Foose and Nick Curling. Those 2 cars a lap down. They're not the first car 1 lap down. That's currently Jason Stewart in the 1. But Jim Foose is the 4th car 1 lap down. Actually, no, give that to Nick Curling because Curling just passed him. Curling, the 4th car 1 lap down. Jim Foose, the 5th car 1 lap down, currently running 19th and 20th, so just inside the top 20. First car 1 lap down, like I said, Jason Stewart. 2nd car 1 lap down, Jackson Van Valkenburg. 3rd car 1 lap down is Sam Maxwell in the Sam Maxwell Customs Ford Fusion. Definitely not the night that Sam was looking for in that number 98. Not quite sure. I don't see any damage on that number 98 machine, but definitely doesn't seem like it's been exactly up to speed tonight. Seen him lose the draft once or twice. I think that might have been him just being overly patient, unfortunately. Sometimes it works out for you, Greg, where you decide, oh, I'm going to back off from the pack, and all of a sudden you lose the draft, and that can kind of basically be a sinking ship for your race, and he's trying to work his way back up, however, in that number 98.
Yeah, but we got a battle going on for the 2nd spot. This is between Evan Black in the 35 and Corey Silva in the 94. Or, I'm sorry, I said Evan Black in the 35. Kelsey Rogers is the 35. Evan Black is the 92. They were battling side by side for the 2nd spot. And how frustrating do you think it would be for these guys to be stuck behind the lap car of Jason Stewart while Jared Mogard just continues to pull away, especially for the 2 primetime cars you see right there, the 92 of Black, the 94 of Silva. How frustrating is it for these guys to be kind of locked in behind the lap car while Jared Mogard just pulls distance on them?
Well, looking at lap times, Kelsey Rogers, Evan Black, and Corey Silva were all pretty much on pace with Mogard that last lap. So I'm wondering if Stewart's actually kind of pulling them along. Of course, Jason Stewart's no slouch himself. He's running pretty, equivalent lap times to Mogard. In fact, Mogard this last time ran a 30.257, and Jason Stewart was actually a 10th faster than Mogard that last lap. So, with this draft package, they might be beneficial to some of the drivers behind. It just depends on how much aero push is being induced with that car ahead. Definitely looks like Kelsey Rogers might have got some aero push this lap. But we'll have to keep an eye on those deltas back from Mogard to Rogers and the primetime boys. So you look a little bit further back in the pack. There's Tyler Seville. He's working his way forward up to the 6th position. And he lost a ton of time because he was the last car to pit. But of course, he's hoping to see if he can make it to the end on fuel. We'll have to see if he can or not, and if this race will even stay green as you ride on board with Edward Bray. Good run for him in that number 66 machine. He's currently in the 12th position, but we saw him up as high as 7th. He is one of those drivers who was one of the last to pit. He's currently only got about, he's got 20 laps on his tires now. That's pretty much equivalent with Jared Mogard. So he wasn't one of those, he was one of those early pitters, not one of the late pitters. But definitely Edward Bray has had a good night in that Harley-Davidson number 66, which is good to see that from him. He's kind of had an up-down season in that number 66, but good to see him up there. It was, Yazik going around the outside of Doug Mullins there through turns number 3 and 4. We just panned away from that briefly as we see this battle up here between Giese and Bonner. and Bonner in the number 99 and the 77 of Giese. Giese has to duck back in as Seville just in front of them is trying to make a pass on Haggerty. Does indeed make that move. Haggerty in the number 6 going to drop back to position number 6. So moves Seville up into 5th. And I said not too long ago that he was about a second faster than Mogard. Well, that's kind of cooled off a little bit. Last time by, both of those drivers ran a 30.2 lap time. But of course, that number 11 machine has about 7 to 8 laps, fresher tires, and more fuel on board. As
he also has quite a bit of damage. He also has quite a bit of damage, I noticed, on that 11 car on the right side as we were on board with the 98 of Maxwell. I noticed a lot of damage on the 11 of Seville. So could that come into play the later on this race gets?
Yeah, that definitely is new to that number 11 machine. And going back and watching the replay just a little bit, he actually clipped the wall coming out of turn number 2 when trying to pass Mitch Brown for the 8th position. So that's definitely not going to help that number 11 machine. I know, Charlotte Motor Speedway is one of those tracks where downforce is key, and if you can, hurt that downforce with some right front damage, that can definitely hurt any chances you have at winning. I know I've done that before, but at the front, Mogard still holds on to a 2.33 second lead over Kelsey Rogers. Last time by, Mogard and Rogers kind of trading back and forth with their the better lap times. 2 laps ago, Mogard had about a 6/100th of a second better lap time. This time by, it was Kelsey Rogers. So those two drivers kind of just going back and forth. But for Kelsey Rogers, unfortunately, he's unable to make inroads as of right now. As you see, the number 92, Evan Black, won last week at Charlotte, trying to do the Charlotte double with the Truck Series victory already in hand, and trying to get the SMS Cup Series victory tonight. But going to have to close in a couple of seconds on your race leader. And of course, there's still fuel mileage in the air. Who's going to make it on fuel? Is anyone going to make it on fuel? And is someone going to have to take a splash of fuel that's going to save them a couple seconds versus someone who has to take a half tank? What is going to happen here at the end of this race? Only time will tell. There's the number 80 of Jack Wells. It's going to be also interesting to see, Greg. We've seen that, tires make somewhat of a difference. We saw at one point that Tyler Seville was about a second faster than Mogard. Now, if I'm a gambling mad and I'm down around the 6th position, if I'm Jared Haggerty, I'm 7 seconds off the race lead. If I'm not going to make it on fuel, which I don't think Haggerty will because he pitted 32 laps ago, I would somewhat be inclined to come down pit road right now, go get fresh tires. If you're not going to make it on fuel, you might as well try and make it up on fresher tires. And I wouldn't be at all surprised to see if we do have a few drivers that decide to short pit a little bit early, take on, maybe a little bit more fuel, spend a little bit more time on pit road getting fresh tires, but then use up those fresh tires to try and make up time on those drivers who just have to come down pit road and maybe just have a splash of fuel.
And if you want to do that, though, you're going to want to hope that the race stays green the rest of the way, because if you get caught by a caution pulling that strategy and everyone else pits, they'll have fresher tires coming down to crunch time. So there's definitely a window that's going to close on that chance very, very shortly. And I'm curious to see when exactly that window is, but I'm definitely curious to see if anyone is going to take it. And it looks like the 99 of Bonner is going to be the first one to try it.
Yeah, and I was thinking that this window is going to close up pretty quickly. Clarence Bonner, of course, is going to throw the dice here. He's not thinking anyone else can make it on fuel. He surely couldn't make it on fuel. So going to come down. I would expect him to take 4 fresh tires here so he can make the maximum out of them. But of course, he doesn't want to see a yellow flag all the way to the finish. He wants this to stay green for his strategy to work out here. Be interesting to see if that number 99, what comes of this. but that left side on that number 99 being jacked up right now. 4 fresh tires. He's down and away here at Charlotte Motor Speedway as this battle for the second position continues to rage on.
And we see a few more takers, Jared Haggerty, Mitch Brown, Tim Knott all pulling in, so Ed Bray as well. So here we go, Peter, strategy beginning to unfold.
Oh, Kelsey Rogers!
Mogard the leader, oh my goodness! And Kelsey Rogers went around on pit road.
Wow, wow, wow. This is a replay on board with the number 35 machine. You saw the 00 right in front of him. He wheel hopped it, and it just broke loose, made contact with the inside wall. Tough break for that number 35. He was already coming in really hot. I'm wondering if we're going to see some speeding penalties on pit road, because the number 92 and number 94 closed right up on the back bumper of that 00. We'll have to keep an eye on this.
What I'm wondering is if Rogers perhaps saw Mogard pulling in and realized, oh crap, this could be the last shot at the window, and I think he made a last-second decision to try to slow it down to be able to pit, and I think it bit him. I'm wondering if that was a last-second choice and it was just a hair too late for Rogers to get it slowed down all the way.
Yeah, pit road speed here, of course, 45 miles an hour. I'm try and see if these drivers all made it down. Looks like Evan Black got down to 45. Great pit road entry for that number 45, number 94 and 92 machines to both close in on Mogard there. But Mogard got a great run off pit road, and he's really going to pull away. In fact, I think Evan Black must have missed his pit box there on pit road. I've got to go back and see exactly how this all played out, because that number 00 was down and away pretty quickly and pulled a huge gap on Evan Black. Yeah, Evan Black had a really long pit stop there. We're going to have to see. Oh.
Race leader Jason Stewart, connection issues, and they were major ones. He disappeared for about half a lap. So there's another developing story, Peter. The race leader right now, Jason Stewart, having connection issues. Kelsey Rogers back on pit road.
Ugh, tough break for that number 35 machine. Can controlling penalty, so I guess he didn't get it woed up in time. One thing to note, the number 00 of Jared Mogard took 2 tires. He had a 10.5 second stop. That's why he still has a fairly commanding lead. But right behind him, you have Evan Black in the number 92. He took 4 fresh tires. He's about 5 seconds behind Mogard. That is the difference between taking 2 tires and 4 tires. But now Evan Black on those 4 fresh tires will be interesting to see if he can make that up. Look at Krobach. He's getting put in the middle of a 3-wide situation there with, I think, Jim Foose and driver of the number 18 there. Of course, the 18 being Doug Mullins. Wouldn't want to be Michael Krobach in that situation.
Definitely not. Has Krobach pulled into the pits yet, and is he just trying to stay out there as long as he can? So no, Krobach, got to confirm, Krobach has not pitted yet. So if you're Krobach, you probably are going to want to pull down as quickly as you possibly can, because at this point, it's just going to be a long way back, and it is not a fun 29 laps if this thing goes green the rest of the way. I think Krobach is going to have to make a pit sometime in the next 3-4 laps if he still wants to be in this thing.
Yeah, definitely a tough break for him, and honestly, I'm really surprised. I was expecting to see maybe a few drivers stay out a little bit longer and see if they could gamble on fuel, but Michael Krobach, he's currently about a second and a half to 2 seconds off the pace of Mogart. So that is a huge lap delta for Michael Krobach, and that's really tough when you're just trying to run your own race at this moment in time. Everyone else around you so much faster, and Krobach has already slipped back into the 6th position.
And Mogart just got back around Jason Stewart, another car who do not believe has pitted on this incarnation of pit stops. But Mogart to the lead with 27 to go. And Peter, those 2 tires, we saw it work earlier for the 99 of Bonner. We'll see if it can work for the 00 as well, because Bonner was able to make those two right side tires work very, very well throughout the course of that race. However, he only had 6 laps on those left sides. Mogard has 20 plus on them.
Yeah, and of course, you know, I'm using live timing and scoring software. Currently, Evan Black and Corey Silva are averaging about 3 to 4 tenths of a second faster than Mogard. Now, let's do the math. We got 26 laps to go. 4 tenths of a second, that's about 10 to 11 seconds if they can keep up that 4/10 of a second difference between Mogard and their lap times. Now, Mogard might be up there trying to save some tire because he does have some older tires, but if that, like I said, 4/10 of a second per lap time delta between Mogard and Evan Black as Evan Black moves up into the second position, passing Jason Stewart, Black and Silva, both of them will be there at the end of this race, battling for the race lead, but only time will tell. There is the number 11, Tyler Seville. We saw him earlier on in this race, leading the race. He decided to stay out really late under that first round of green flag pit stops, but now finds himself back in the 10th position. Of course, he started on the pole. He's currently sitting 12.2 seconds behind the teammates working together, drafting together around this 1.5-mile racetrack. That's definitely going to help their lap times. There's a little bit of connection issue there with the number 92 of Evan Black. Definitely not what you want to see if you're both Evan Black or Corey Silva.
And with Silva and Black tucked up nose to tail, is that helping them try to reel in Mogard even faster, or does that really come into play with this track?
Oh, I think it does. With this new package, it does. With the old package, I'd say heck no, but with this new package, I think it's going to help them. As you see Alex Giese move forward, Michael Krobach continues to lose time and positions. Tough break for him. Here goes the number 55, Brian Yazek. Yazek in the 55, he currently sits in the 12th position on the lead lap. So good to see him on the lead lap as of right now, but he has not pitted in 37 laps, so I don't think Yazek will be able to make it on fuel per se. Oh, 99!
Oh,
on the wall! On his
that is
side!
A hard hit. That's going to bring out the caution.
Yeah, it looks like that number 99 might have had an issue possibly with his wheel hardware. There's no blown tires here in iRacing, but watch him go through the corner. All of a sudden, the car starts going straight. And that number 99 on its side going through the corner. Hard lick for Clarence Bonner. You see him regain steering there at the end after the car had ridden the wall there. Tough break for that number 99. Clarence Bonner had a great race going. Oh, man, it's just like a tire blew.
And that he's lucky that he was that high up on the racetrack, because if he was any lower on the track than where he was at, that would have been even harder of a hit. So he got lucky that he was able to continue on under his own power just by purely being as high up on the racetrack as he was. Otherwise, I think he would have had to take a toe back.
Yeah, the number 99, Clarence Bonner, he's a little bit sideways, but there on your screen is your big winner, Jason Stewart. He actually gained a lot of spots for staying out. Good for him. Brian Yazek, another big winner. He was a lap down, now back on the lead lap. Great to see that number 55 there at the top of the screen. Clarence Bonner is number 99. That car is crabbing. So not quite sure how long of a repair he'll have, but all your leaders now hitting their pit boxes. And number 00, Mogart, hitting his pit board. Everyone doing a good job of hitting their box. It's something that's fairly difficult to do, Greg. I'm sure you have slid through your pit box once or twice. Fairly easy thing to do, but everyone doing a good job of it. As the number 94 is rolling, that's Corey Silva. Mogard also rolling. Looks like it's going to be the 00, the 94, and the 92 off pit road. Look at that. I think that's the number 98, Sam Maxwell, and Tyler Seville. It'll be the 5th one off pit road. I believe that is the number 98 as Sam Maxwell kind of throwing the dice. Great to see that. Going to be interesting to see what Sam Maxwell can do here. I'm actually showing he had a 4-tire pit stop. So Sam Maxwell,
His
I
team
said it
must have
earlier in
just
the
nailed
race.
it.
I'm wondering if Sam hadn't pitted yet, because we saw him at one point, I believe, a lap down in that number 98 machine, and now running in the 5th or so position. So good run for Sam with only 19 laps to go. He's turned it around, and that Sam Maxwell Customs machine is in the top 10 of the Sam Maxwell Customs Charlotte 200. Alex Giese in the 77, he's coming down pit road here, along with the number 24, Ellen Young. A couple of other drivers on pit road. A couple of those drivers been involved in various accidents tonight. But Jared Mogart up at the front. Jack Wells right in front of him. I think he is going to take a wave around here, along with Nick Curling. Kelsey Rogers looks like he's going to take a wave around. Of course, he had that big mistake on pit road. Currently sits in the 19th position. He is going to be on the lead lap once the wave around is shown. But Kelsey Rogers ran in the top 5 whole night long, and now going to have to fight to get his way back into the top 10.
But Peter, I'm looking at the scoring pylon. We mentioned that the big winner was the number 1 of Jason Stewart. He came out of the pits. He's in 14th right now. So I don't know if he stayed on pit road to get a little extra work done to the damage on the car, but that has got to be tough because everything that he gained, he just lost right back on pit road.
Yeah, my timing and scoring shows a 36.6 second stop for Jason Stewart, so I think he did get some damage repaired. All right, sounds like we have an interview lined up here. I think it's the 94 of Corey Silva. Corey, you got a copy?
I got you.
All right, man. It's been a really exciting race. Got that long green flag run there finally, but now it's go time here at Charlotte. We saw some action early on. How are you going to get this win tonight, and how are you going to make that high line work on this restart?
At this point, it's just going to be pure luck of where I can fall in line. You got to be on the bottom for the first 2 laps, so we got to get in line and hopefully put a PTR car in.
All right, well, you got the 1 to green, so I'm going to let you get back to it, but good luck, and hopefully we'll get to talk to you after this is all said and done.
Thank you.
All right, well, that's driver for the number 94, Corey Silva. As you can see, he's led only 1 lap in this race, but he's been up near the front for at least the last 2/3 of this race. Worked his way up there, and pretty much once he got up into the top 5, that's where he supplanted himself. But, Greg, you got any predictions for this 16-lap shootout?
I think it's going to be like it was at the start of the race. It's going to be wild from here on. That yellow threw everything that we were talking about strategy out the window. Now you got to go for it.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to see any of these drivers hold anything back here once we go back to green. And of course, you know, we have these lights on the racetrack. The track temperature has cooled down a decent amount from the start of the race. We're, you know, in darkness. You see that track temperature of only 73 degrees Fahrenheit. That's fairly cool for these race cars. And there's going to be a lot more grip out there on the racetrack than what we saw earlier on. So that's just going to up the intensity here for these final 16 laps. Hopefully we can make it clean and green to the end. Pace car dives down onto pit road. The race is in the hands of the race leader, Jared Mogart, in the 00. Green flag back in the air. Mogart hard on the loud pedal. What a restart by Mogart. And the number 92, Evan Black. I think Black is going to try. Yep, he tried to clear Corey Silva and did so, and Corey Silva was able to duck back in the line. I'm sure that's what Corey Silva wanted to see, because you heard it from him. That high line just doesn't work on the restart. Now he's on the inside line, however. Ooh, look at the number 92, Evan Black, down to the inside.
Man, what a move. What a move by Evan Black to get right to the door of Mogart. However, this is where the inside lane can really fight, but Evan Black makes it stick through 3 and 4 there. He brings Silva with him, and here comes Sam Maxwell, and Maxwell goes with Silva, and here comes Seville out of nowhere. Oh, here we go. Business is picking up at Charlotte.
Yeah, it's all about picking your line at this moment in time, who you're going to go with. Mogart's stuck on that high line. He's now got help from the 51 of Mitch Brown. And look at the number 55, Brian Yazik. lap down for most of this race. Big gainer when that last caution flag came out. He's now in the 7th position, trying to gain position. What a turnaround this has been from Brian Yazik. Has had an up-down season, trying to get back to victory lane here tonight. He's up to 7th, but that number 92, Evan Black, now all alone out front. It's double file for 2nd place on back.
And that might be double file for the lead on back here in just a moment if Jared Mogard can get up there and contend with Evan Black as the laps wind down. 13 to go at the line. Black has the lead. He's got his teammate Corey Silva right behind him, but Mitch Brown is giving Jared Mogard the push on the outside. But look at the 94, or the 98, excuse me, of Sam Maxwell up there in the top 5. He made some strategy calls middle of the race that seems to have paid off for him.
And Jared Mogard just got a huge push from the number 51 of Mitch Brown down the backstretch. That pole vaulted that 00 up to the side of that number 92 machine. That outside line all of a sudden starting to look fairly strong up there, but the 92, Evan Black's gonna pull up in front of the 00, at least off for long, because here comes Mogard. He's going to dive back down to the inside line. We're side by side for the race lead.
He's going to take the lead right there in 3 and 4. He's going to clear Evan Black, but Black's going to have room for the crossover. Oh no, he went to the outside. He made the outside lane work, and he pulls back to the door of Mogard.
Yeah, Mogard just closed the door. Of course, Charlotte being a quad oval, you can close that door. Oh, there's contact right behind between the 51 and the 94. But there's no one wrecking. They just kind of bounced off one another. They're still side by side for the race lead. Evan Black's going to have to start pinching Mogard down there to the inside line. You see that 00 washing up just a little bit, coming through turns number 3 and 4. But Evan Black's going to lead that lap by only 25 thousandths of a second, so they're side by side still for the race lead. And look at Yazik. Yazik trying to use that high line, that 3rd line, to see if he can make some move. Yazik's now up into the 5th position.
Boy, Yazik has done a great job recovering. We saw him up near the front in the early stages of this race, had those issues that dropped him back a lap down. He's done a great job getting back there. Oh, Giese in the wall in the 77. And he goes around.
No caution. Can't believe that there was no caution thrown for that, but Giese still under his own power. That number 77 looks pretty torn up. We'll see this replay here.
Just pushed in turn 4.
Yeah, just caught that wall. We talked about it earlier. Look at Richard Stallings. Richard Stallings got into him, and there was still no caution. Unbelievable. Stallings in the 15th position currently, but up at the front, we're side by side. Corey Silva. And I was just going to say, Mogard got shuffled back, and that's going to give the battle to the 2 primetime teammates. Corey Silva just drove by Evan Black. Looks like he was standing still in that number 92 machine. And now Corey Silva up to the front. We just talked to him. He said he wanted to get to the inside, and he said it was going to take a little bit of luck. But that number 94 up front here. And, man, that number 92, Evan Black, all of a sudden starting to slide back into the clutches now of Mitch Brown.
But ding, 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 yeah, I was just going to say, here comes a new challenger, Mitch Brown, beginning his move to the front. Remember, he was up at the front at the early stages, kind of rode around in the mid-pack for a majority of the race. Now, third spot, with coming to 6 laps to go at the line. Boy, Sam Maxwell, he has done an amazing job. This last race for him in the Ford Fusion, and he's doing a great job up there in the top 5 right now. In contention, caution!
And we have 2 drivers on the back stretch. This could be the race, ladies and gentlemen. Jim Foose and Nick Curling appear to be slow on the back stretch. Let's see what happened here. Oh, Jim just caught the wall there. Looks like that number 42 just took a hard right and it just threw him right into the side of that number 45 machine. That was kind of a strange incident there. Let's see if we can ride on board here with the number 42 going down the back stretch. Watch that wheel. Oh, it just seems like it just went up into the wall. That's surprising. And that does bring out the caution here we're currently with 6 laps to go. there is a slim chance that we'll go back to green flag racing, but a lot of the drivers staying out thinking that is it. If I'm near the back of the pack, I'd probably come down and take tires, just because if you do go back green, you might have a big advantage, and some of those drivers in the back of the pack are coming down pit road, but all your leaders are staying out. First car on pit road is Jack Wells in 15th, so the top 15 pretty much staying out.
And that was going to be my question. How far back in the pack did you think the cars were going to come down?
Yeah, and that pretty much would have been my answer, basically, like 15th on back. Kelsey Rogers, Richard Stallings, Jack Wells, Alexander Pelican, Jim Foose. Actually, Jim Foose is one lap down, so he will not get the lucky dog here because he was involved in that accident. Same thing with Nick Curling, who was also a lap down. Let's see if we can dial up Jim Foose. See if we can. Doesn't look like he's in here able to talk right now. So we'll see if we can get the number 92 of Evan Black up in here. Evan Black, Peter Short here in the 3-Wide TV booth. Got a copy?
Yeah, I gotcha.
So, first off, do you think we're going to go back to green flag racing?
It's going to be really close. I'll let you know here in about 30 seconds what it's going to do. We'll just, if we get 2 to green this time, we're going to go back green, which, you know, obviously I hope we go back green. Corey, he's hoping it stays yellow and ends under caution, but we'll find out here in a few seconds.
It seemed like over those last few laps, as soon as Corey got up to the front, it looks like your number 92 just all of a sudden couldn't keep pace with him. Was there anything wrong with the car, or was that just this new package being this new package?
It's this package being this new package. I hate this package. And 2 to green, white checker.
All right, well, that's good news for us up here in the booth. But now let's shift gears just a little bit. So how are you going to get in front of that number 94 machine? You're starting on the outside. We've seen the outside have a disadvantage all night long. Do you have a game plan? You don't have to tell us what the game plan is, because everyone else might be listening. But do you have a game plan to get to the race lead?
The main thing is if I can stay on his quarter panel for 1 and 2, I think with how old tires we're on, if I can stay next to him out of 2, I'll be able to get by him. But we'll just kind of have to see if I can time that restart good enough, which with the restart zone we've had tonight, it's been pretty easy to time it. So just need to stay next to him and see if I can form. But the main goal right now is to get a PTR 1-2 and just to not cost me or Corey the win.
Absolutely, definitely. Teammates taking yourself out. That's rule number 1 for teammates. But this new version of Charlotte, is there anything about these new iRacing tracks that, you know, is interesting and strike, you know, you in any way? You mentioned that it seems like the restart zones may be a little bit smaller. Is that true?
Well, just I don't know if it's necessarily smaller, but most of the time in this league, we just kind of go off when the pace car goes in. But tonight we're using the actual restart zone since it is pretty easy to see here at Charlotte. So, and really with this restart zone and how iRacing has it timed out, it's kind of hard. Because like as soon as you get in the restart zone, the green comes out pretty much. So there's really not much leeway in where you want to go.
All right. Well, Evan, good luck here on this green-white checker. Hopefully we get to talk to you here in just a little bit.
All right, thanks, guys.
All right, well, that is driver of the number 92, Evan Black. He's going to be restarting second on this restart. And Greg, I think he's got his work cut out for him starting on that high line.
Well, if he has an advantage on the outside line, it's the fact that he has the 00 of Mogart lined up behind him. And I think that may be the only advantage that Evan Black has right now. I think this one is Corey Silva's race to lose at this point in the 94. If he can get a good enough restart and he can fend off a challenge from Mitch Brown for the first half of the race, I think it's going to be hard-pressed for anyone to get up there and challenge the 94 car.
So just to let y'all know, Clarence Bonner was that driver, brought out the caution 2 cautions ago. He said that his screen went black. Definitely a tough break for him in that number 99. But with 3 laps, really 2 laps to go once we go back to green flag racing. It will be a green-white checker. We'll find out who is going to get this win here tonight. Richard Stallings will be the first driver on fresh tires. He's going to be restarting in the 15th position. So we'll have to keep an eye on that, whether or not he can crack the top 10 or not. But pace car has come down, and everyone on the loud pedal. Corey Silva gets a huge jump on Evan Black. Huge jump. Here comes Mitch Brown. Mitch Brown's going to follow into second. That outside line just did not get going. Jared Logart's going to drop to the inside line. Follow Mitch Brown up now into the third position. Evan Black now sinking like a stone on that outside line. But look at this.
Was that too far for Corey Silva? Because Mitch Brown got a huge run and he's got help from Jared Mogard. Did Silva get too far ahead on that initial start? He touches with Mogard. Mogard in the wall. This could be the race.
That will be the race. Caution flag is out. Huge wreck behind. Cars flipping back there. And it's going to be Mitch Brown that gets the checkered flag. And it all stemmed from contact there between the 94 and the 00 of Jared Mogard. I'm sure Mogard won't be too excited about that, but Mitch Brown will take the checkered flag here tonight. We'll go back, see if we can get a replay, as we have now reached a white flag lap under caution. We will get a replay after we cross the checkered flag, but Mitch Brown will be taking the checkered flag here tonight. Corey Silva will be second. I'm sure Jared Mogard won't be too excited with the 94 after that contact that they made. They, of course, were both going for that checkered flag. Sam Maxwell in the number 98 machines got a piece of that accident as well. However, he was able to get through it, and he's going to come home with a third place finish. Sam Maxwell in the Sam Maxwell Customs machine and Sam Maxwell Customs 200. Say that 10 times fast. But it will be Mitch Brown taking the 51 to victory lane in the Sam Maxwell Customs 200 here at Charlotte Motor Speedway. Greg, what a finish that race. Like you said, intensity picked up right there at the end.
I think Corey Silva got too far ahead of the rest of the field, and it cost him, because Mitch Brown was able to size up, get a good run, and pass him on the outside. And Silva did everything in his power to try to get it back, slid up the track, got into Mogard, and it was on from there. And Mitch Brown has himself a win at Charlotte.
Yeah, great to see that number 51 going to victory lane here. I'm sure he's going to come onto the front stretch and burn it down. Slowing down here. Ooh, as we go to the turn 3 cam. And there he goes. Number 51, Mitch Brown, taking the checkered flag.
Smoke him if you got him, ladies and gentlemen. Mitch Brown just picked up a huge win at Charlotte. I believe that those last 2 laps, I believe those were his only 2 laps led of the race.
And of course, this will be Mitch Brown's first Cup Series win of the season. So great to see that in that number 51 machine. Of course, Mitch Brown had received a win on the Truck Series side of things back at Daytona back in February. So this will be his second Premier Series win of the year for the Sim Marketing Solutions. Number 51 is going to take the Polish victory lap backwards around this racetrack. I'm sure he's down there celebrating. But while he's doing so, let's see if we can possibly see if we might be able to get a replay on that accident that brought out the final yellow flag of the night. Well, actually, getting word that we'll get the replay after a quick break. We need the production truck to cue that up, but we'll be right back here on 3 Wide TV.
The most realistic online racing sim ever made. This is iRacing. Detailed laser scan tracks, fully dynamic real world cars, and over 50 series to choose from. 6 online world championships offering over $100,000 in annual prizes. This is the original esport racing game. This is iRacing.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we have queued up the replay for the last caution that, or excuse me, the last accident that brought out the final caution. And as you can see, Mogard there going off into turn number 4, the 94 down there on the bottom, and it seemed like either the 94 might have clipped the apron or just got really tight there, pushed up into the 00 and hit the number 92. Look at Michael Krobach in the 72 just off screen going for a ride. Brian Yazik in the number 55. We talked about his rebound. Unfortunately, he rebounded off the wall. Tough break for him. Riding on board here. Not quite sure who this was. I think this is Krobach. Because there goes the gyro cam. That's definitely Michael Krobach. And giving the gyro cam a little bit of a workout there at the end. And looks like Krobach was able to finish under his own power. So that's good. As Jim Foose in the number 42 scooted through to get a little bit better finish. Riding on board here with, I believe, Jack Wells, and oh man, look at all the smoke right in front of him. He did everything he could to slow down, but got a piece of it right there at the end. I think he bowled his way through to finishing a little bit higher than he would have previously. Riding on board now with Alan Young, the number 24 machine. And Alan Young, he finished down in 21st position, but he did a good job of getting through this final accident without any further damage on the number 24. He saw Jim Foose kind of flash across the screen there in the 42 Maxwell Chevrolet. But Greg, that brought out the final caution that gave the race win to the 51 of Mitch Brown.
And Mitch Brown, just in the right place at the right time, got the run off turn 2 on the restart, was able to get around Corey Silva, and he was it looked like he was going to have to fend off a challenge from Jared Mogard, but Mitch Brown pulls it off, and looks like we are trying to dial up the top 3 right now.
Indeed we are, and the third place finisher is driver of the number 98 Sam Maxwell Customs Ford. That driver, of course, is Sam Maxwell himself. And Sam, man, it was kind of a roller coaster night for you in that number 98 machine. Looks like at one point you might have lost the draft, ended up quite far behind the pack. I think you were just pacing yourself, but you definitely rallied yourself and finished third tonight. Talk us through it.
Yeah, well, my strategy was to just long run the car as best as possible. I kind of figured that it was going to be a mess up front. So once it started to get going, I just started backing off. I backed up, and then that one caution right at the end, I took fuel right before it went green and intended to just make it on the one stop. But it put me in a position to be, in an ideal situation for a late race caution, which put me right in the running. And then when all that, hell broke loose right on the last lap, I squeaked out of third place, so I have nothing to complain about.
Yeah, you kept your number 98 machine clean all the way, I think, to right there in that last caution. How important was it to keep your car clean tonight? Because we saw a lot of people get involved in accidents.
Oh yeah, there was significant aero push, and if you tore the nose of the car up at all, it just made that problem, exponentially worse. So it really needed to take care of the right front, not beat the tire up, not get the nose into the wall. I worked really hard to save tires and not really race anybody, so I could have something at the very end when I was almost out of fuel and out of tires and they were coming. So it worked out in my benefit. Yeah,
absolutely, and definitely getting a good finish, of course, in the race that Sam Maxwell Customs sponsors, so definitely a good showing here tonight, and also only your second top 5 of the Premier Series season. Talk us through how important it is to get this top 5 for you and your point standing situation.
Well, so far it has been a tough season. I've had some bad luck along the way, and it's been tough to make up the ground. So yeah, these top 5s are really important, especially for the TV time. It puts, the sponsor's name right in the front, so that's always nice. Can't complain about.
Absolutely, and of course, this is your last race in the Ford Fusion, I believe, in the Cup Series side of things. Of course, we go over to the Ford Mustang. What are your thoughts about that switch? Because that's pretty cool.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to the Mustang, and it brings us that much closer to what they're. I'm looking forward to the Mustang. It brings us closer to what they really run in the top league. So, the closer to real life we can get, the better.
Absolutely. Well, the next Cup Series race is at Watkins Glen, which is quite a bit different than Charlotte Motor Speedway. Of course, turning left and right at Watkins Glen. Do you like road courses, and what are your thoughts about that race?
Yeah, no, I do pretty well at the road courses. Anywhere where you have to rely on the brakes, I tend to excel because it's more technical skill as opposed to raw speed. It's more of a thinking man's race, and I tend to do well. All
right, well, we're definitely expecting you to be up near the front then at Watkins Glen. But before we let you go, Sam, you got some shout-outs for us? I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I want to give a shout-out to the league and to Jim and everything they do for me as a sponsor and me and a driver. Shout-out to all my friends and family and wife June, who are hopefully all watching. And a plug for the business, Sam Maxwell Customs. If you need a steering wheel for your rig, come see.
Absolutely. Well, Sam Maxwell always putting on a show and, of course, sponsoring the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series. Does a lot for the league, and we thank you for joining us here tonight, Sam.
Great. Thanks so much for having me.
All right. Well, that was your third place finisher, Sam Maxwell, and I believe Greg has caught up with the 51 of Mitch Brown, it appears. I don't see Corey Silva here in the chat. There he goes, Mitch Brown.
Yeah, Mitch Brown, Greg Rents, 3YTV, got a copy.
Yes, sir.
Hey, man, you did it. You pulled it off there at the end. And first off, congratulations, man. What a sprint to the finish that was.
Yeah, it was. I was kind of worried about those last 2 laps, but I got a good. I think the leader got out front too much, and me and Mogard just he gave me a little shove and. I just cleared him in 3, and everyone else wrecked behind me, and I was just smooth sailing.
All right, man. Tell us about what went through your mind on that last run, because you mentioned it, and we saw the same thing up here. We thought maybe Silva had gotten just a little bit too far ahead. What do you think happened there on that restart that set up that move for you?
I mean, it didn't matter to me if he went ahead or not. It helped that his teammate on the outside didn't get a good jump, and I was able to clear him, and Mogard got a good restart and just stuck behind me, pushed me clear by him. But I was content just getting a top 3 and just trying to survive the carnage that was going to happen, which did happen. But it happened behind me, and I was in the lead, so I'm not going to complain.
And tell us a little bit about that strategy, or the strategy change there when that caution came out with about 15 or so laps to go, because we were on the cusp of a close to 100 lap green flag run by the time that was getting close to said and done. And all of a sudden the caution just changed the entire complexion. There was all kinds of different strategies going on there. When that caution came out, and that threw all the strategy out the window, and all of a sudden it was a sprint to the end. Exactly when does the intensity go up in the car? Is it right then, or do you wait a couple laps to try to let things settle down? At what point did the intensity click on for you?
I think it clicked right as that caution came out, because we did we pitted on 67. I can't remember what lap it was, and then we tried to short pit because I knew I wasn't going to beat the leader head stuff, so I had to try something different, and the short pitting strategy worked out, for us. We didn't get the lead, but we got farther ahead in the running order than we were before the pit stop. So, I just once that caution came out, I knew it was just go time. I had to all give, no take, and it worked out for us.
And work out it did. So we're going to let you go celebrate this huge win at Charlotte. But before we do, we know you want to give some shout outs. So Mitch, who do you want to thank?
Oh man, I got a long list. I got Dirty Bird Sim Racing, guys. Great cars. I want to thank one of our painters, Coffman, Splash and Go Graphics. He does an absolute amazing job painting these cars. These cars are great each and every week. All my secondary sponsors, and also I want to thank you guys. You guys do a really good job each and every week putting on this broadcasting league. So I want to give a shout out to you guys as well.
All right, then Mitch Brown, we will let you go celebrate. Mitch Brown, ladies and gentlemen, your winner is Charlotte. Congratulations.
Thanks, guys.
And Peter, I believe you have caught up with Series President Jim Foose. Peter, take it away.
Yeah, and first off, I want to talk to Jim about the race tonight. Of course, Jim, your race didn't start well, but you hung in there. Didn't get the finish you wanted there at the end, but like I said, you hung in there in that number 42 Maxwell machine and squeaked through there right in that last accident, just barely, getting through. Talk us a little bit about your race. I'm sure it's one to forget, but just talk us through it just a little bit.
Yeah, we had a really good Maxwell Holco Intercon Chevy Camaro ZL1 when we got here and started the race. It started off, it had good power and handled really well, and then we got caught up in that first wreck. Somebody spun after the initial wreck and went to avoid it and clipped somebody, and around we went. So, and then everybody forgot what the pedal on the left, or actually the middle pedal, does there. So unfortunately, not a good start to the evening, and just not a good race overall for our entire team. I mean, we struggled with the damage and everything with our car, and team cars didn't do much better. It was overall not a good night. And had that caution where I bounced it off the wall. That's my fault. I caught my teammate of all cars to hit and caused a caution. Probably would not have been a caution, and wrong place, wrong time for him. Oh well. Get out of Charlotte. We'll go to Rockingham next week for the throwback race with the Truck Series, and we're going to bring back the Menards truck. So really excited about that, but just really disappointed in our run here at Charlotte tonight.
Yeah, well, definitely a tough night, but that's a not the best of notes, but on a good note, it was a great race for the league. We had that long green flag run, 2 rounds of green flag pit stops. Definitely a good and exciting race. This new package is definitely something that some drivers are having a tough time wrapping their head around. What are your thoughts?
I've always been a fan of momentum racing and being able to carry the speed off of the corner. And to be completely honest with this, I don't feel the sense of speed that has made me like some of these mile-and-a-half tracks in the past. It's a neutered style racing. It looks great on TV, and there's lead changes and slingshot moves and people going 3 wide and doing crazy things. And the downside of it is that you get the wrecks. But if you're not one of those maybe front 4 or 5, maybe 6 cars, the weight coming off of the pack is just absolutely terrible to try to keep up. And where we've been running in the Cup Series this year, it's probably not the best of places to be for us to package. While it suited us at Michigan at a tighter mile-and-a-half track like this, it just does not. I don't think that while it might look good on TV, I don't think that the quality of the racing was all that great in the pack. Obviously, we had a long green run. I'm happy about that as a league owner, but I just don't. I would rather see the high power and really be able to carry some speed.
Yeah, but definitely speeds were down in comparison to the old package. I think these cars were topping off at 184 or so, and that's about 10 to 15 miles an hour slower than the old package on the straightaway. So that was definitely interesting to see. But we definitely have some awesome stuff coming up here in ASRS. We got a charity event coming along. Talk to us what we have in the near future.
Well, the first one is that we have the ASRS Throwback Truck Series race next week at Rockingham. So that's kind of an old school track. We used to do it at ISM Raceway. With that being kind of in the playoffs and everybody having their playoff spoilers and all that, it kind of ruined some of the schemes, they said. So we moved it to the regular season, put it at an old school gritty racetrack like Rockingham, which is pretty cool. Really happy we have Menards back on board with us. They were off the truck due to the upcoming sponsor rules. We were one of the first teams to kind of adopt those. And actually we got our written permission yesterday to have them back on. So we're excited to have Menards back for that. As far as the charity event, September 26th, it's a Thursday night. We have the Janet Watkins Memorial Pulmonary Fibrosis Awareness 250 Cup Series cars at Iowa. And that'll have a lot of speed because they'll have all the horsepower at that 7/8 mile track. So that'll be a really exciting race. Sign-ups are ongoing for it. There's a $10 entry fee, I believe it is. Half the money raised goes to the Pulmonary Fibrosis Foundation, and the other half will go into the prize purse for the event. Right now, I believe we have the top 5 will get paid out, and our goal is at some point to roll that to the top 10.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. I love the throwback races. I think they're super cool. Really excited to see all the trucks next week. Hopefully, Trading Paints decides to behave next week, so we can see all those awesome trucks. But nonetheless, Jim, thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you next week at Rockingham. I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, we should see me at Rockingham. We have to clarify a couple things, but I believe that we will be there. I don't know going forward with the Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series if we're going to continue to run with our car. There's a sprint car race in town for the next one when we're at Watkins Glen. I'm not very good at Watkins Glen. See where we are with the playoff standings, and you guys might get a week off from me coming up one of these days. So, sprint car race will be pretty fun. The World of Outlaws are in town, so that would probably win out for me.
Well, you get a big woo for that. Before we let you go, you got some shout outs for us. I'm sure you do.
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody with Maxwell and Holco Intercon for everything they've done on the Cup Series side and the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series. Sam Maxwell Customs, for everything he does for the Truck Series, is the title sponsor, as well as some of the products and stuff that I've been doing some prototype testing on, the speed pods. Everything he does for the league, it's pretty cool. American regardless, that is made in the USA. Wear hats, t-shirts, etc. with patriotic graphics and slogans on them. Pretty cool stuff, really high quality, great stuff. Veteran owned and USA made. So it doesn't get any better than iRacingiFlag, and of course Driven Design, Speedway Action Media, and everybody that races here with the American Sim Racing Series.
All right, Jim. Well, if we hopefully we get to see you next week. If we don't, then
and Menards. You can save big money at Menards.
That you can, if you have Menards in your state. Of course they don't. They're not in Texas, which I always wanted to go to a Menards. I want to go to a Menards someday just so I can say I've been to one, because of course their affiliation with racing over the past 20, 30 years. I think it's really cool what they've done for racing. Of course, now dipping into sim racing as well. So that's really cool to see. So hopefully one day I get to go to a Menards somewhere in the country.
I wish you the best on that. We just got one around the corner, so I'm quite happy.
Well, there you have it, ladies and gentlemen. That is League owner-organizer Jim Foose. And next week will definitely be an exciting race at good old Rockingham Speedway. Well, Greg, I think it is time for us to go through the final finishing order here tonight. Definitely a crazy race. We didn't know the finishing order to the end of the race, but it was Mitch Brown who came home the victor tonight. Corey Silva finishing in second. Sam Maxwell in the Sam Maxwell Customs Ford finishing in third. Tyler Seville, your pole sitter, comes home fourth. He kind of worked his way up there towards the end. Jackson Van Valkenburg, talked about him a few times tonight. He was near the top 5 for most of the night, came home in that 5th position finally. Jared Haggerty, 6 for 6 in that machine. Edward Bray, and the 66 finished in the 7th position. That's pretty much where he ran for the last 2/3 or so of the race. Tim Knott 8th in the SMS machine. Jason Stewart, another one of those SMS Dirty Bird sim racers, finishing in 9th. And great recovery for Kelsey Rogers to come home 10th. He was 19th or so there with about 16 laps to go, but he was able to squeak out a top 10, Greg.
Coming home in the 11th position was Evan Black, was right up there in the mix at the end of the race. Unfortunately, problems for him and rendered him out of the mix at the end in that last lap crash. Richard Fletcher comes home in 12th. Jack Wells fights back to 13th. Richard Stallings and Alexander Pelican round out the top 15. Couple of guys who had some trouble throughout the course of the day. Michael Krobach in the 72, saw him up near the front for most of that. Caught up in that accident. He went for that wild ride. Jared Mogard, of course, led so many laps. The final car on the lead lap tonight in 17th. Brian Yasik, Jim Foose, and Dan Deffler round out the top 20, Peter.
And in the 21st position, blackjack position, the number 24 of Alan Young, Nick Curling finishes in the 22nd position. Alex Giese, 23rd. Tough break for Alex. He had a great run going tonight in that Trek machine. Clarence Bonner in the number 99 also had a great run throughout tonight's race, but unfortunately had a screen go black on him and hit the wall, finishing 19 laps down in 24th. Doug Mullins finishes 25th. Steve Buhala is engine blue with 64 laps to go. He finishes 64 laps down. Tough break for him to finish 26th. Troy Haight, Will Worsler, Chris Titus, Calvin Miller round out your top 30, while Andy Veltman, Ty Hester, and Lee Staples, who DNS, or actually he did start the race. He only completed 7 laps. He did not qualify, but he did complete 7 laps. Lee Staples rounds out your field. Well, Greg, great race tonight. Going to be exciting to go to Rockingham Speedway. That's an old school racetrack, old race surface, high tire wear, and that's going to make for a very different race from tonight, but equally as exciting, I would think.
For sure, Rockingham was always one of the most fun tracks on the schedule when NASCAR went there, and with the rumors of it coming back, of course, never been higher than what they are right now. This is a perfect opportunity for the fans of the ASRS series to really get an idea of what they could expect if NASCAR was to return. And with the throwback weekend, drivers love doing that. That's going to be an exciting race coming up at Rockingham next week.
All right, well, ladies and gentlemen, that will do it for tonight's Sam Maxwell Customs 200 for the Sim Marketing Solutions Cup Series. We'll see you next week, like Greg said, at Rockingham Speedway for the Sam Maxwell Customs Truck Series here on 3 Wide TV. Before we go, I want to give a shout out to our friends over at Sim TV, bringing these cameras each and every week. And also want to give a shout out to Carlos Acosta for doing the cameras each and every week, doing such a great job. And Thomas Morris for these fantastic graphics that continuously improve here that we use on 3 Wide TV. Well, for myself, Peter Short, Greg Rentz, and Carlos Acosta, we bid you all a good evening, and we'll see you next week.